Sierra, may you please lead the Pledge of Allegiance? Invocation provided by Rabbi Bill Seamers of Temple Israel in Riverhead. Approval of
He's got to do the invocation now. He's going to say.
Elohei Harochot V'chol Basar, God of the winds, God of all flesh, gather today in humility. The last weeks remind us of man's fragility and that our existence is always in your hands. Our hearts and prayers go out to those still afflicted in the wake of the storm. Lord, comfort those who suffer today. You're reminded, though, and give thanks for the tireless work of those who serve the public, police, firemen, engineers, our healers, all who stood in the breach as the winds blew and the waters rose and as the waters receded. For the acts of kindness, countless from one person to another, we give thanks. The acts of love for your creation, which are its sustenance. Give your servants strength and purpose for the task ahead. We gather also on the morning following a contentious national election. We give thanks for the great blessings of democracy and freedom, which are our heritage. Direct our leaders' hearts to unity in seeking the common good. Direct the hearts of our people to the care of one another and of service to the ideals which make this land a light to all nations. Bless and heal America with your love. Let us say.
Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi Seamers. That was wonderful. Thank you, sir. And enjoy the upcoming storm. Be safe, my friend. Okay, so what's next?
Approval of minutes of Town Board meeting of October 16th, 2012.
I make a motion we approve the minutes of October 16, 2012. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Moved and seconded.
Vote, please.
Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
The minutes are approved.
Jim? Sure.
Mia, I just, as part of the town board, we just want to present you with a certificate of award. We realize that the 2012 reading program through the Riverhead Free Library that you took place in, and you read free, well, you actually won that. Reading's a great thing, and we recognize that in town. But we want to recognize you for doing a great job up here as our supervisor, spending the day with Supervisor Walter, and learning a lot about our town. So we have a certificate of award for you on behalf of the town board, making you supervisor for today.
How do you want us arranged, you guys in the press? Is this acceptable? Yeah.
It's Mia Rosas, right? Rosas.
All right.
Mia Rosas.
The gavel again? Okay. One more. Stand up again. We've had locals a little late showing up.
I was conferring with the rabbi.
Right, you checking to see whether the storm was real or not?
No. Nice.
All right. I get to bang the gavel again.
I never banged the gavel.
Go ahead.
Awards and proclamations.
You just got it.
You just got
You
it.
just gave it to
That's
you.
it.
Correspondence.
Okay, under correspondence, I have a letter from Gregory Fisher regarding Resolution 818 from October 16th with regard to resignation of 5 full-time police officers. Another letter from Janine Zeltman regarding the public hearing of today with freshwater wetlands inventory map at Mercy McGann High School. Under reports, town clerk for October, $11,823.55. The sewer department submitted their discharge monitoring report for September. Under fire district budgets, Jamesport, Manorville, Riverhead, and Wading River Fire Districts all submitted their annual budget summary for 2013. And that's it.
Is there any town board reports?
I have no report.
I don't have the particulars. I know the Snowflake Regatta is scheduled for this weekend. That's still up the 11th, I believe, on the riverfront. The Snowflake Regatta is going on. There was a 24-hour veteran run that has been canceled until springtime because of the storm and the damage that was down there. So I think the Snowflake Regatta is scheduled for this weekend, so you have a chance to come down and watch those people get in that ice-cold water and row. It'd be a nice thing to do. So.
Oh, yeah, I do have one thing. The first Sunday in December, it will be the Lions' Welcome to Santa Claus to the town of Riverhead, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Main Street. So, we have a month away, but I just want to remind everybody to bring the children and the kids down, and we all have fun.
And
Thank
love when Santa Claus comes.
That's right. Thank you.
You like Santa Claus?
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, so we got some public hearings. So what you're going to do is you're going to call, first you're going to say public hearings, and then you're going to call, say that it's 2:05, and you're going to read just this first public hearing.
Okay. Public hearing, 2:05 p.m. The considerations of adoptions of 2013 annual budget for the town of Riverhead.
Thank you, Campbell. Say it's open.
It is open.
Does anybody wish to be heard on the 2013 town budget?
Hey guys, good afternoon. Steve Romano, Riverhead. Could you tell me in this budget if there been any structural change from the formula that the prior supervisor gave at one time, that 80% of his last budget was salaries and benefits, 10% was debt, and 10% was discretionary spending? Has this budget changed structurally in any way?
No, but those figures aren't exactly right. It's more closely 70% salaries, I think more than 15% debt, and then a little less, 15% contractual services. So that was the same under Supervisor Cardinale as well. It hasn't changed.
So nothing's really changed with the big bulk of the expense?
Well, spending is way down. We've cut spending, we've kept spending below the rate of inflation. I think spending over the past 3 budgets that I've submitted was up 1.07%, about 1%. Over 3 years, that's it, 1%.
Okay, could you tell me, if it's possible, how many employees the town had in 2007 and how many they currently have today?
I can't tell you in 2007. Bill, do you have that information?
I don't have 2007 numbers.
How about 2008 or 2009?
I can go back and look at what they were. I just know from this year how many.
We can give it to, it's definitely a net decrease. Bill, write Steve Romano's name down. I should be writing this down. And then we'll get that to you.
Well, that was just to see from when you folks
Yeah,
kind of
there's
took
been
over.
there's been a net decrease, fairly significant. My guess is going to be with the first round of layoffs, second round of layoffs, and attrition, jobs that we didn't replace. I'm going to guess we're close to 20 fewer employees, full-time employees. Maybe 15 to 20 is going to be my guess. But we can get that information to you.
Okay, good.
Bill, you have that? We'll get it to you.
I know sometimes with a decrease in personnel, strange as it may sound, there are departments that get an increase. It happened where I worked, and I'm just wondering, have there been any departments in the town that actually saw an increase? And if so, would there be an explanation for that?
There's not been any increases, I don't think, no, I think every department, accounting, no, it wasn't an increase, it was kept the
Accounting,
same.
I'm told accounting has 1.5 more employees than it had when we took off.
That's not true.
Or, no,
It's not true, it's not.
Well, I think
not
you'd have to
accurate.
go back to maybe 6 years ago, at that point.
Accounting is at the same level it was before. They're just different jobs. We used to have a clerk typist or a senior clerk typist, and that person retired, and we hired an accountant in that person's place, but it's still the same. The increase to the town is about $2,500. That was it.
And that would
the
probably,
Riverhead Local reported that there was additional people in the accounting
The
department.
accounting's, he's right
But
there.
we'll look
You
into
can ask-
that.
you-
No,
you
but
don't
I'm saying,
to
I
look
think you have
into
to
it.
go further back. If you go back 6 years, there are more.
Guys, you don't have to look into it. He's right here.
Come up here.
There's changes in departments from year to year. For instance, one year we had the retirement of 2 people in the building department, and one came back as part-timer, and then there was no one in that department to replace that person. So if you look from 2 years ago to this year, it's the same amount of employees, but in between you went down one and back up one. So there are some changes like that within the departments. There's no additional people in 13 than there was in 12, okay? As far as the accounting department, there are no additional people over the last 5 years in the accounting department. I'll go before I was here to see how many people there were in any one of those given years and get your numbers on those. But I'll also give you numbers for the entire town.
All right,
Okay.
thanks.
just a few more questions. Hopefully I can get them in the 5 minutes. Could you tell me what the town revenues were in 2007 versus the town revenues now?
Phil?
I don't have that number off the top. I don't understand 07 off the top of my head, but I'll get all the.
I'm assuming there's been a major decrease.
Mortgage tax in 2007, if I'm not mistaken, was about $2 million. It went down to about 700,000 when we took office. It went up to 800,000. We budgeted 900 for this year, and for the budget you're looking at, I think we budgeted $1 million, and it's on pace to hit those milestones.
There were certain revenues, like the mortgage tax high was $3.1 million. But we also consistently budgeted like $2.1 million. The high was just, I'm going to say, an aberration. But like you said, even the mortgage tax itself, we're going to 1.1, where we're collecting 700, 900, and so forth. So they're starting to come back up, but most of them are down significantly.
Just a clarification, because I've read a few different articles. Did I read correct? Because one was in Newsday, one was in the local. When I remember reading in Newsday, they had quoted the supervisor as saying that there was a $700,000 increase in pension and $700,000 increase in medical insurance, or was that total $700,000 for both?
No, that's roughly correct. 700 for each.
Okay, so there was 1.4 million increase in compensation for employees of the town.
Yes, you're right. Yes.
And am I correct that the number that I also saw quoted was 300 employees?
Across all lines with the police department, yes. 304, is that what you said, Bill?
I think that's the latest count.
So if my math is correct, that means every employee in the town of Riverhead, excluding any salary increases, got $4,650 in increased compensation.
I don't know about your math, but you're accurate in your analysis, yes.
Okay, I think my math is correct, because let's round it. If you made it 5 times 3, that's 1.5. Being in light of that, is the contract agreements that are still out there, because I know this is unwelcome news, but based on what I'm reading and in the strait the town is in, are they still also getting salary increases on top of that?
The town, the PBA doesn't have a contract right now. The CSCA had a 0 in, was it 11 or 10? When did the contract start, Tara? 11 and 12 were zeros. 13 is a 1, and 14 is a 1.5. They do have steps in the contract, but the raises were 0, 0, 1, 1.5.
But I think we also got to look at the non-union employees. It's in the budget for 2.8%. Am I correct?
Can you
2.85.
2.8.
let him finish?
Okay.
You don't mind?
I'm answering the rest of the question. I don't think we finished. You answered his question.
He asked the union contract, he didn't
Okay.
ask for non-union.
While leading it.
Thank you, because I would have, in total, but that's,
Right.
thank you. Could you tell me what the total share of the salary, percentage-wise, that the police department consumes in regards to that 70% number that you,
About 50%,
50? So, and how many employees do they?
about 100.
100. So really 100 employees eating up 50% of the salary and benefits, and the other 200 are only eating up 20%. Would I be correct? Out of the
the other
70%.
50% of the 70%.
The other 50%.
Oh, okay, 50%. So what you're saying is 35% of that 75%. In other words, if the salaries and benefits are 70%, my question
It's
was,
not really accurate to say it that way. Your formula's correct, but the numbers you would plug in aren't correct because the police pension costs actually outpace the CSCA pension costs.
so
They're more
what,
expensive.
so then my analysis, when I just kind of round off, that's unfair too then. There might be some
Might be
employees.
higher for the
might-
police.
For the police, where a clerk or a town highway guy might be getting a whole lot less in compensation total.
Correct.
Bear with me, I'm almost done. The reserve fund, I understand that you've tapped it, and according to what I think you've quoted, Sean, is that in a couple of years, will be zero.
Will be zero. The reserve fund at the end of this year will be roughly $8.99 million, depending on how this budget performs. We were taking out for 11 and 12, we took out 2.6 million and 2.6 million. I held it to just under 3 million. The lion's share of that expense was we sold the remaining landfill debt, and that added almost $400,000 to the debt service. I couldn't absorb it in the budget without catastrophic cuts, so we will take out 3 in this budget. We'll be able to take out 3 in the next budget, and then the town, if we don't get something done at EPCAL, we will be facing a 14% or more budget, tax increases. The lion's share of it, all of it actually, is the landfill debt. And here's how you know that. The landfill debt cost us about $3.5 million a year. I think that's the number, right? $3.5 million a year, and I'm tapping the reserve at $3 million. So eventually, either we're going to sell property, get the subdivision done and sell property, or that 14% tax increase is coming. And then, I don't have anything else to add. It's not good.
Now, is the reserve fund the percentage cushion? I saw one on Channel 22 when you were talking to George Woodson about that he should have a contingency reserve 15%
correct.
of his budget. Is the reserve fund the general budget's cushion? Because if it is, we're not at 15%.
No, you're not. You're going to be down after this budget at 13.5 or something like that.
Okay, which leads me to almost my last question.
Which is why, I'll just finish
Go ahead.
my thought, which is why we cannot sell any debt right now. Moody's and Standard & Poor's, they probably would not come back in and rate us because we're not looking to sell debt on any level. But if they were to come back and rate us, the fact that we have not been able to wean ourselves off that reserve is problematic. About the only thing that, if we don't sell property in Grumman, about the only thing that could bring us back, and it's only going to bring us back maybe a third, is if mortgage tax somehow jumped to 2.1 million again, we would be in better shape, but that has not happened. And we have to grow the tax base.
The next question is in regards to Sandy, the storm. The current cost that I'm assuming the town's also incurring like everybody else, will that be in this year's budget, next year's budget, or is something that nobody anticipated and that's part of the cushion?
No, it's not in the budget. What's going to happen with Sandy, we hope that FEMA will cover us. We'll have to come up with about 25%? It's 25%, right? The FEMA match will be 25% between the state and the feds. So we may have to come up with 25% or maybe a little bit less, depending on how things work out, to cover our costs, which we're thinking are going to be about $500,000. So no, we're in trouble.
Wonderful. Yeah. And the last question, I thank you for your patience. On another show that I was watching, you guys were talking about the town dock on the river and about letting Treasure Cove kind of cooperate and take over the dock leasing or whatever happens over there because it wasn't too efficient the way it was going. Did the town give any further thought in regards to maybe privatizing or an RFP or thinking about privatizing all their docks, maybe getting out of that part of the business? Which I know from what I was hearing, it seems like it's a break even. It doesn't really cost, but actually we could probably save and make some money if a private operation was willing to lease from the town and say, give us $500,000 for the dock, and we don't even need the employees to be there. Was there any thought given to that?
We've got, actually, George Gabrielson and I are working on a project now that would probably help to do that. We're still in the starting stages of it, but we'll be ready to present it in a few weeks.
Oh, good.
We got an answer to that.
Any other areas where the town might be thinking that's another place to save money, but yet keep a decent service?
Well, one of the things that we're contemplating doing is the sale of the East Lawn building. Depending on what that nets for us, we would put that back into the reserve fund, would be my guess. So hopefully that would work for us.
Say something about the docks.
Yeah.
East Creek in Jamesport, the town has made money on that docking facility. About $265,000 a year comes into the town. And actually, we did some improvements on the beach with some of those funds this year. So the town, the last time the town leased out East Creek, we didn't make any money. And actually, I think it was a lost project for us. So taking it back, at least we're getting now $265,000. And I don't know if you'd lease that out again, if you would get that much funds in, and plus put the infrastructure, repair the infrastructure that we've been doing out there. And like I say, we helped South Jamesport Beach do some reconstruction this year with them funds because they're attached to the East Creek, so we could use funds there. Behind the parking lot, we just don't have the manpower to collect $25 because the Recreation Department has to come down and collect that money, or our patrol in the water does that. And they just don't have time to go down there or go down there every night to see who's down there. So we were thinking about privatizing back there so we could get a little more money than we're getting now.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Thanks, Sandra.
Sandra Limott, Riverhead. Let me preface, I'm not from here originally, so I probably can speak more freely than many people. It's ironic you're discussing the budget. I was going to wade through your resolutions, but this will probably be as adequate a time as any. I'll make it short. What kind of budget do you have for emergency preparedness?
In terms of, there is not a separate line for emergency preparedness in the budget per se. The Highway Department has money in overtime reserves for snow removal. We have reserves, not reserves, but we have money budgeted for salt, sand, ice, that type of stuff. The town, because of the financial circumstances that it's in, we don't budget a separate line. If we have to tap money, we take it out of the reserve fund.
I think maybe you should reconsider that. After the past week that we've all had to contend with, some of us more than others, some with more success than others in finding help, some with Sean Walter's assistance, Jill Lewis, Carol, Congressman Tim Bishop's staff, Mr. Laval's staff, Mr. LaSquadro's staff. Just happens that I've known these people previously. had they not stepped forward, our particular community of over 500 units, some with very frail elderly, who never had a on the door to see if they were dead or alive. And since we have no central location for servicing the entire community, in addition to the community in which I'm in, I think you really need to reconsider it. Whether it's federal funds, state funds, or start asking these developers to put in some money into the because frankly, let me finish my sentence so my 5 minutes doesn't get mingled with. Bottom line of the story is there was no emergency preparedness. Thank God, after 4 days of constant phone contact, I only took the top echelon. I didn't deal with all the other people here in the town. I took the people who I know I could get response from, who they were good enough to respond to. I want to thank the Buffalo National Grid guys who came on Friday after 4 days of no heat, no electricity. 4 days. It took them 3 hours to fix the problem. I want to thank the American Red Cross from Indiana and Wisconsin, who followed us back to our community and brought hundreds of sandwiches, foods, etc., and to which we know we dispersed at least 200 people. And I want to thank the fact that these people, you may not have it in your budget, as with everything in this town, there's too much dependency on private citizens, individual, private organizations, not-for-profit and otherwise, and organizations like the American Red Cross from Columbus, Indiana, and Wisconsin. Now, you may not have it in your budget. It certainly wasn't in our budget to throw out $300 worth of refrigerated goods and medicines. Now, multiply that by 500. Whose budget is that coming out of? You don't have a budget? You better get a budget. You're drawing people into this community like lambs to the slaughter. You constantly are enhancing what we already don't need. You don't need another ice skating rink. You don't need another dog pound run. Pardon me, you need the pound. That's another issue. I'm saying we've discussed the armory. We own that, correct, Sean?
Yes.
And you said they left it in bad condition.
Very bad.
Well, let me say, I believe it was the first you had a work session or such. Whatever you had, I saw it on the TV, and you were discussing the cleanup of the beaches. Well, that's lovely. Well, we don't use the beaches, and we couldn't get to them because of the gas issue, coupled with the fact that they were cutting down the trees in the fireman's lane there next to Honda on this side that you own too, right? Who owns that?
Fire department.
The fire department. Well, guess what? They should have been cleaning up the armory and making that a central location for the services of the community of the town of Riverhead. So
We
at
had a
least
central location.
a central location, because
did.
guess what? The county center is not a central location. You have to sort of accidentally find out. We only knew about that. We only knew about that when we found out that our friends' houses could have burnt to the ground in Freeport. We still have not been in touch from that horrendous Woodcliff Canal disaster around Nautical Mile. That's why we were at the library, and we see a little sign. And guess what we also see? Ready, Suffolk County Residential Guide to Emergency Preparedness. And guess what that was dated? 2011. Well, excuse me, unless we were going to see if our friends were dead or alive, we got nothing from the town of Riverhead. We got no on the door, were we dead or alive? Nobody gave a, you know what? You did, Sean, because you kept in touch, as did Mr. Bishop's staff, Mr. LaSquadro, and Mr. Laval. You better get a preparedness statement. We don't all have generators. 87-year-old mothers should not be told that she should get her own generator or get out and find a place to stay. Now, you understand what I'm talking about, and we're not going to elaborate on that. I am telling you, you need to do some emergency preparedness, and whether it's donated materials and supplies, etc., it has to be at that armory. Now, I'm not asking for paint and carpeting. I'm asking for 4 walls and a ceiling and a generator to provide heat, water, a central location. If we own it, let's utilize it. I'm trying to keep myself calm here because I'm not happy. And I have a lot of neighbors who are not happy. Now, they may not be here, but I am. How long I'm going to be here, God knows. I'm telling you, coupled with the irony of the day, you know my favorite subject, what about the animal shelter? Do you have that in your budget?
Yes.
You do. Well, guess what? We came in from doing tasks. This magnificent husky dog was running wild in Glenwood. I always carry a leash. He was very frightened. I called 911, fearful because of this dog. He had approached a little dog and a neighbor. Officer, I didn't get his name. Is it Mardell or Markel? Something like that. Very nice man came. I was afraid of this dog causing damage, not only to me, but to the other people, unknowingly. The cop came. Dog would not go into the little leash that I had in my hand. He said, let me see if I can get him in the car. The man sharing his lunch to get the dog in the car, he still didn't. Because you know why he came? Because we don't have any animal control on staff today. Now you're telling me I understand the reasons why. It was expanded on by Jill when I called in to describe the situation. And I'm sorry for them. They're wonderful people. But you don't have anything in the budget for these situations? You have got to be kidding.
We do. Sandra, we have a reserve fund, and if the town is not running out of money, and if we need money, we have money.
But we're depending on organizations from out of state to come and feed Riverhead town residents.
That's not accurate.
What's not accurate? I was there. My picture was in Newsday.
Sandra,
You want to see it?
we opened up, in fact, we opened up that center, the Red Cross shelter.
Which center, dear?
We opened up the high school, and the Red Cross
For
did.
1 day or so, and then the American
No, it
Red
was
Cross
3
closed
days.
it. No, it
And-
wasn't 3 days according to when I called.
It-
Nonetheless, it should be open 24/7.
Sandra,
Did you
we
have
all
heat
we
and
all have to
electricity?
thank the supervisor. The Red Cross opened the shelter in Hampton Bays.
We don't
They
live in
wanted
Hampton
all-
Bays.
They wanted our residents to go over to Hampton Bays. Our supervisor said, we're not gonna do that for our residents.
Sean,
and
I
we are
think would
gonna
agree with
open-"
you
Wait,
that
wait.
no. I would agree that Sean would probably agree that that's his job.
And
So
he did,
don't
he
say,
opened the
"Warren, I'm
school
wonderful."
without the Red Cross authority to open it, and they're the ones the county gave the authority to run the shelters. He
Well, then you
opened
need
it
to get
without their
FEMA's authority to use that armory, because most communities have the armories in their towns for whatever reason. And you're telling me that we could not utilize that as a central location? Because the American Red Cross people were freezing their heinies off over in the county center, and they asked permission, could they follow me back?
Okay, I just want to keep
Now,
it to the budget.
no, the
Can we
budget
keep it
is,
to the
you need to
budget?
budget more broadly in protecting your residents.
Thank
Not ever, and the communities that are in this town of Riverhead, the developers need to be required to provide a safe on-site haven. If they have a rec hall, if they don't have a rec hall, they need to provide something on-site, because I'll tell you one thing, a lot of people were afraid to leave for fear of burglary, etc. Because as we all know, it was pitch black. So when you're budgeting your budget, you need to recognize these things happen. And if you think it's funny,
I don't think.
yeah, you
I don't
do,
think it's
John.
funny.
And
I
you
just
know
don't
what? I
think-
don't think it's funny.
I just don't think that you understand.
I
that the
understand
state
freezing my ass
regu-
off for
wait,
4 nights.
The state regulates what we can charge developers and what we can't
Well,
charge
then you
developers.
need to expand your repertoire.
Because it's like a tax.
Well, you know
So
what? But you
we're
have
required.
funding going to the recreation facility, right?
Well, you know, sometimes you have to depend on neighbors
Oh,
looking out for neighbors.
excuse
You
me. That's your dependency element again.
Sandra, can we just
That's
keep it
why
to the
people
budget?
pay taxes. And when people come up here and say, consider this, consider that, depend on neighbors. Who? My 85-year-old neighbor?
Me.
I know, Sean
And
was
the
one of
chief
the
of
few
police.
people and the police. But the
Can
problem
we
is.
stick to the budget, if you don't?
Yeah, well, the budget is, you need to budget, because I know that we're living on a budget, and now this $300 loss of foodstuffs was not in our budget. So who do I bring the bill to, you? Do we have a
No.
class action lawsuit in the entire town of Riverhead to bring against the town for not providing adequate emergency preparedness, which you just said we don't have? So, anybody want a class action lawsuit? I'll be happy to sign at the top. Any attorneys out here whose mothers, whose aunts and grandmas froze their asses for 4 nights?
Please watch your language with the young girl up here.
Oh,
please.
yeah, well, guess what?
Please.
The young girl shouldn't be here at an important meeting like this.
Well,
Sandra, can we just
she
keep
earned
it?
a right.
Yeah, well, let me get to this. So what are you going to do? Are you going to provide a brochure? Because we don't have any brochures for the town of Riverhead.
Yes. It's on
We
our
don't have a website. Not everybody has a computer, Jill. I agree. Thank you very much for bringing that up. Not everybody has access to a website and can't afford a website because their budget doesn't allow for it. I know what you
Sandra,
are.
we'll get you a copy. I don't know what you want.
Copy of what?
A copy of the
I
the
want
plan.
you to
The plan's been
provide
out.
it for every citizen in the
We'll
town
su-
of
we'll supply it.
Riverhead.
We'll put it
And
in
not
hard copy.
everyone should have to do for themselves. Can I
We'll
make a
supply it in hard copy for anybody that wants it.
Listen, who wants it? You should be providing it. You
We'll
are
make it
supposed to
available.
protect your citizenry.
We'll make it available.
No, you will mail it out to each person. Yeah, don't worry about the 5 minutes part. You know, don't worry, the point of order is
All right,
that
Sandra.
we don't have a generator and you need
Sandra,
to do the right thing.
are we done
for
with the
your
budget?
citizenry.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.
Does anybody else wish to be heard on the budget? Actually, there's not a 5-minute in a public hearing.
Hi, good afternoon. I will talk just about the budget.
Just Larry, you're.
Larry Oxman, sorry. In the budget, there's I guess a line item for self-insured. And for I guess the coming budget, it's zero for any of the different districts that pay into that. In 2011, I believe that it was just under $1 million, like $950,000. What exactly is that money for, and is that an account, or was that to reimburse?
I'm going to let Bill Rothar answer that. Is that the only question, Larry?
It's all going to pertain to that.
Okay.
Town set up a self-insured fund, actually one for workers' comp, one for unemployment, and one for risk retention, way back in the early 90s. Every fund has been contributing to that fund. Every operating fund has been contributing to that fund since then. We are considering, instead of contributing to that fund because of GAAP, government accounting procedures, not paying the money into the reserve fund, but paying it directly out of the operating funds, because GAAP doesn't want to see a large fund balance in those insurance funds. So the way we budgeted 2013 was, instead of making the transfer from the general fund and every other operating fund to the self-insurance fund, we have a line, it's in an 01910 cost center, paying the claims directly and paying the insurance policy directly. Between now and January, when we start paying these claims, we will determine whether we are going to eliminate that self-insurance fund, put the money back into the operating funds, and if we do that, then the budget is fine. If we're going to continue to move the money into the self-insurance fund, then all we need to do is do a budget mod, increasing revenue in the self-insurance fund and putting the appropriate expenditure in the self-insurance fund. Either way, the monies that are put into that fund when it was set up years ago was to save money on the policies. Instead of being insured from $1, or instead of having a self-insured retention amount that any specific fund could wind up getting hit hard in one particular year, the fund was set up to take the expenditures and spread them out over all funds in any given year, so that we don't get hit hard in one year. So there may be an accounting change depending on research we're doing with GAAP to see whether we're going to keep it that way or go back to the way we were. He's correct in saying that the reserve funds have no budget in there, and if we have to go back and do it that way, it's just simply adding lines in the reserve fund for the revenue and the expenditures.
Thank you.
So if I understand Mr. Rothar correctly, if Sandra Motz did take a class action suit against the town, and in the unlikely circumstance that she won, where would that money come from? Because it didn't sound like it came from that fund. Or if F1, who has litigation against the town, where would that money come from? Does that come out of that self-insurance fund, or it comes from somewhere else?
Well, go ahead, Bill. I can answer it, but Bill, go ahead.
So what will happen is, if we do away with the self-insurance fund, the balance in that fund will go to the operating funds and sit reserved in fund balance for future claims. This way, if there is a particular claim in the highway fund or town general, you'll have a reserve fund balance there instead of in the self-insurance fund. I'm actually looking for a way to keep the self-insurance fund because it helps smooth out the expenses. If we can't do it that way, then we have to do it individually by funds. When you get a small fund that may get hit with a claim on any given year, it could have a significant effect on a smaller fund. They're kind of protected by pooling all the resources. So I'm going
But
to
the
try and
money-
keep it in the reserve fund. If not, everybody gets their fund balance back. Everyone gets it back in the way of a fund balance, but it's reserved for claims. There may not be enough in that specific fund if there's a large claim.
So really, the money exists, it's just an accounting question, the
Right.
question that we're trying to get answered by, is it GAAP?
Yes, and we're going back to the original
Government
resolution. I had to pull that resolution out to see the specifics of that resolution. We had a claim in the water district years back. If it was set up the way they want us to, the water district would be in a lot of trouble. But it was absorbed by everybody because everybody was putting money into that fund all along. That's why I want to try and keep it that way, but I have to figure out how we can do that. Maybe we have to change the resolution that set up the reserve fund.
I just got a follow-up question on that one. If someone sues and wins $5 million from the town, where does that fund, how do we pay that?
Well,
Where do we get that money from? That was his
Okay.
question.
Right now, it comes out of the insurance reserve fund, okay? And there's money in there that's contributed every year. We expect a certain amount of claims to be paid out. If it's in excess of what we pay out every year, it's going to wind up coming out of the fund balance in the self-insurance fund. However, we have self-insured retention, meaning that we have, in essence, we're only on the hook for the first $150,000 or $175,000, sort of like a deductible. Okay, so on any given lawsuit, we would only be on the hook for the first $150,000 or $175,000, and then our insurance, because what we do is we pay a policy in addition to contributing to this fund, and the policy covers us for anything in excess of that.
So to answer his question, we have insurance for that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
We only have to pay the first 150?
Or 175, depending on whether it's workers' comp or risk
175, then it goes to the insurance company, then we're not totally self-insured.
Correct.
My question to you, Bill, is since we're not having this in the insurance fund anymore, is it earmarked in the reserves?
No,
Or is it just pooled? It's just all, you said it's pooled.
Well, what will happen if we have to eliminate the reserve fund, this insurance reserve fund, what we will do as of 12/31/2012 is take the balance of the reserves in the insurance fund
Okay.
and move them to the appropriate operating funds that they belong to,
Okay.
and then you'll have a resolution, obviously, that will put those aside in fund balance. It'll reserve it in fund balance, that fund balance is specifically
Okay, good.
for
That's all.
insurance claims.
That's right. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Anything else, Larry?
So, John, I think you did answer my question. So, looking through the budget, I didn't find any lines for insurance policy. So, somewhere in there,
He's
that
gonna show it
information.
to you.
What we used to have was, I'll say it out loud, so we can get a copy. We used to have in one cost center, which would be our insurance 019100 unallocated insurance. That line was only for the payment for the premiums for each fund. And then back in the back of the budget, in our transfers to other funds, would be the transfer to the self-insurance fund. We've now put both of those in the 1910 unallocated insurance, and then self-insurance contribution is 19110. So it's in two separate cost centers at the beginning, as opposed to being transferred out to the self-insurance fund.
But I think we get people confused when you use the two different self-insurance fund and an insurance fund. Actually, we shouldn't have a self-insurance fund, we should have a insurance fund that has a reserve fund attached to it.
Right, so what we have is an unallocated insurance cost center, and then the next line, or the next cost center, is the contribution for it's actually the budget for the actual claims that are paid. That's what we'll transfer if we keep the self-insurance fund.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fisher.
Good afternoon. Hi, Greg Fisher, Calverton. I have a request of the board to pass two resolutions. One request to the governor, one to the county executive.
This is a budget public
I
hearing.
understand, and it does have fiscal impact. As you know, I filed some suits to try and reform LIPA and cut the rates down. Some of these suits are still pending. We filed petitions to have elected trustees. We would like to
Tie it to the budget?
Well, we're trying to break out this thing of municipal power authorities and try and get Riverhead a municipal power authority, no different than Greenport, knock the electric rates down 40 points. But of course, that would affect town line items on energy. It's simply to request a resolution to support elected trustees and to ask for a resolution to go to the governor and one to the county executive. If the county executive or the governor consent to these suits pending for elected trustees, it becomes law. It doesn't have to go through a 10, 12-year process. And our goal is to do the right thing and to cut these rates down. So that's the extent of it. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to be heard on the budget?
Okay, just would like to make a statement. Councilwoman Giglio and myself are coming up with some amendments to the supervisor's budget, and we're looking at some substantial savings. I think there may be enough monies to cover the matching grant for FEMA that may put us in a hole, or else the money will go back to reserves, and we'll probably have that ready in about, I'd say about a week. And where we found most of this was overstated expenses and missing revenue. So I think in about a week we'll have a substantial number we can.
When you get a chance, could you share some
Yeah,
of that with me?
yeah.
No.
Okay, guys,
It's in
we're
a working
here to
process. We're
hear
not
the
finished.
public. I understand, but you're going to have a work session to discuss this?
I totally understand. I just want the public know that something is coming up. This isn't final.
Okay.
It may be
and
final. That's
in
all I'm
that-
saying.
In that vein, I will say that I've researched $250,000 of your expenses, and we found about $18,000 that was accurate, and $50,000 of a grant that may or may not be able to be obtained, that our senior center didn't ask us to put in the budget as revenue, and if it is in fact true,
There's another 50.
there'll be
But
$50,000.
it's funny that you would know all these numbers because I haven't worked on this with you. You probably heard from the accountant, but there's other things that you
No.
haven't even mentioned that are in there.
George?
So I said I will present mine. This isn't yours, Sean. This is yours here. So when it gets presented at a work session, we'll look at it.
So there's-
So I don't want you to beat it up, until
But
we
we-
get it.
I've just,
But right now, we're confirming the information with the chief financial officer, and we have had several meetings with the chief financial officer or the financial administrator, and we are under the impression that a lot of these overstated expenses are in error and need to be corrected.
okay, well, I think you're
So-
mistaken because that document that was given to you was also given to me, and I've gone through it line by line. The chief financial officer works for the town board, gave all that information to the town board and a written statement and said there was about $18,000 that may have been on a $45 million budget that may have been in error. I consider that very good. And potentially, there's $50,000 that we didn't know from the senior center that may be a grant. But the bottom line, if you have two council members working independently, that's not really helpful to the board.
It's
So
a
if you
work
could
in
get that
session. It'll be
information
presented at a
to
work
us.
session to the board, Sean. And the 18,000, you keep going on with that 2 weeks ago. We've since worked on it, and that number's history.
Well, good, I'm
But
glad.
until
Any
you
savings-
see it, that's
Well,
okay.
that's what I'm asking.
Sean,
You brought
did
it up.
No.
Hey, George, you brought it up at the public hearing.
All right, I said it's
So
going to
where
be
is it?
continuing
Let's see
on.
it.
I
Let's
told
see
you it'd
it.
be the next week.
No, let's see it
And
now.
Sean, to your
Let's see it
credit,
now.
I don't know if you're feeling slighted. You did
No,
a good
I don't
job.
feel
You
slighted,
did a
George.
good job. It's a good thing if we find more money,
George,
not a bad thing. It doesn't reflect on you.
you
That's the
found-
impression I'm getting.
But you
That's
have
okay, Sean. You
two
did a good
board
job.
members that are not sharing the information with the other
It's a
three board
work in
members.
progress. We're
It
going to
has-
share it at a work session.
It has to be confirmed by the
We're still
financial
working, right.
administrator before we're gonna
Well,
bring it to the other
Before
board members.
we
And-
close
It's
the
a waste,
public
right.
hearing, let me just say one thing. I appreciate your diligence. I'm looking at it on my
I know
kitchen
you
table.
Right, and the other
And I will
ones.
tell you this, it's not your budget and it's not your
Right,
budget.
exactly.
It's their budget.
Right.
That's
So,
right.
and we'll get it right.
At a work
Okay?
session,
We
put
will.
all together, exactly.
And I know that Jim and
John
John
had
have
things too.
also been working independently with the chief financial administrator and going through proposed changes to the budget also. So we will put them all together, and, I've had discussions with Jim about it, and I've had discussions with John about it, and you know, we will come together as a board and we will discuss these proposed changes to the public budget that was presented to the town clerk.
I think we do need a work session. I thought we were gonna have a work session on the budget last week before this public hearing. And I don't know if we have a work session and change the budget, no one has told me yet, do we have to have another public hearing
I have
before the budget is passed?
Well, I don't think we
Because no one shared any of that information with any of these board members on this end of the table.
Okay.
So I would like to get that straight before we discuss it.
That's not true. We've
If
had
you're-
several
you're-
discussions
You
with,
have the ability to have a work session. Let's have the work session. Can we hear from the public? We're here to hear from the public, not from the individual board members. This is the public's public hearing.
We understand that, and we didn't go into details and numbers, you did.
and you just asked us.
So don't
for-
worry about
No,
me
I
with
did
that.
not. We are here to hear from the public, and we hear from the public.
Move on.
Oh, wait, the gavel.
That's
The
it.
public.
Move on.
Ow. Wasn't, yes?
Good afternoon, Dennis Ewan, Riverhead.
Good afternoon.
First of all, I apologize for not being able to look at the entire budget online, but a couple questions I had read, confirmation of questions I had read about in your 2013 budget. Are you proposing to cut the position of the youth director, and also, I guess, the director of personnel in your budget? Again, that's what I read. I just wanted a confirmation or a
Youth
clarification.
director, personnel director, and what was the other one?
Those two.
Yeah.
Just again, that's what I read. I haven't examined the whole budget.
That wasn't the intent of the first budget, so we're not sure that's.
Will be
We're not sure
presented.
that's gonna wind up there, but that's.
Okay,
Right,
The
that will be
comment
presented
is-
at the work session. That's
Okay.
one of the considerations we
Comment
have.
is-
One of both
Those are
positions. Right.
two needed employees in the town of Riverhead. Employees of 300, do need a personnel director, I believe. And the
No,
youth,
there's no legal requirement. In fact, the town didn't have a personnel director. I think that position is maybe 4 years old, and the town didn't have one. East Hampton had a personnel department of 4 employees, and I believe, I'm not positive, but I believe it was cut down to 1 person. We have somebody in the personnel department that we can devote half to 3/4 time in the personnel department. So what I'm saying is, in these tough times, we've got to go back to what we did, and we got the job done before. So there's not a legal requirement for that position.
employee base was 300 in those
Yeah.
years?
Roughly, actually, our employee base is less now than it was then.
And does that work fall on someone else's shoulders or other departments?
Yes, everybody has to do more with less.
More with less, but not without. So
Same.
when you have a department that has 14 people in it and you feel the need to cut a position, then because you're doing more with less, these are departments, the youth bureau and the personnel, that are one person, essentially, department. And to divvy up the duties amongst several people may not fulfill the requirement of that position. So, and the dedication to that position. So that's something that we're looking at. We did have a work session last week where we had the Youth Bureau board that was here. I have had several discussions with police officers that are in the mentoring program with the kids that have been able to, through the Youth Bureau, get these kids on the right track, which will end up saving the taxpayers of this town a significant amount of money when it comes to having these children either incarcerated or having to educate them in special classes because they fall behind in their work.
That is the goal.
So,
Well, I just want to point out that the Youth Bureau was not an independent department. It was part of the Recreation Department. And the Youth Bureau will continue. I did speak to Mr. Coyne and today, as a matter of fact, and he was misquoted when the Youth Bureau came, Board of Directors came last week, or Advisory Board. And it's still his opinion that he can temporarily, and I'm not looking to cut the Youth Bureau position forever, but if we have to, due to these difficult economic times, not hire somebody, and we're not cutting that position, not hire somebody for a year or two, and the Recreation Department, which the Youth Bureau was part of, can absorb everything and continue to function as it did in the past, that's what we have to look at, and we owe it to the taxpayers to look at it that way. So that's my budget. Is designed to basically keep the Youth Bureau running seamlessly, but not have a youth bureau director, it would be subsumed completely within the recreation department. So I don't think people are going to see a change except that Donna retired.
But one of the things that I'm told that is a requirement of employment as a youth bureau director is that you have a degree in psychology. So I don't know that where we're gonna find that in the recreation
That's not
department, and I
accurate.
think it's important.
It's not accurate.
But to let you know, Dennis, just to ease you, yes, those were tentative cuts on the supervisor's proposed budget. The board now has the budget, they're looking through it. We're gonna meet as a board, and some of us feel passionately about some of those services, and if we can find the money to restore some, we're gonna look at to do that.
All right, thank you for your input.
And, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, next. Mr. Hadoff, I was thinking you weren't coming to this shindig.
Keep them away.
I really didn't want to, but Matt Hadoff, to speaking of Youth Bureau, who's going to do that work in the Recreation Department?
It'll be broken up between the department head and his staff and the police department, the JAB unit of the police department. And Matt, it's not forever. This is a relatively temporary thing. A year or two is my goal to bring this position back.
I'm just wondering what individual is going to be doing that work, and you know why. I mean, it's a union position that
no,
we're
it'd be
not
your
filling.
members. It would be your members. I think that it would be overseen as anything with the department head, and then it would be your members that would be doing the work. We're not looking to send it out to anybody else.
Okay.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to be heard? All right, not seeing anybody, we will close.
Can I say something on the youth bureau? I've been on the youth bureau committee for now for 6 years. I've been a member of theirs, longer than that, maybe 20 years now. Basically, all the ideas and all the work comes from volunteers. I mean, other than monitors where we need security or we need people to help, most of them are volunteers. We need a full-time coordinator. A part-time coordinator cannot bring all these volunteers together. Now, anybody has watched on television the high school when they have the program at the Vale Levitt with the singing Teen Idol, which you
thought Jim ran that.
I do.
well, he doesn't run it. He's the
Well, I coach the kids, and I got it.
yeah.
Do you need anybody to help
so-
with singing?
But you need someone to put all this stuff together. A part-time person cannot keep control of all the volunteers that we have. And if someone doesn't show up, the Youth Bureau Administrator is there to do this. And a part-time person, he's not gonna know that no one showed up. I mean, it's just almost impossible. So that's a real, but on any budget, what's cut is either youth or seniors. And I think it's a shame that that happened.
I cut more than that, unfortunately.
But that,
All right,
like you say, John, now we had a work session, we may keep that seat, we may not. So,
And that's
I was
something
just-
that we have discussed individually amongst board members. So, John, you did hear something from this side of the table about that.
Yes, but apparently the supervisor's in the dark about what the board's doing.
I don't know, you seem to have a lot of detail before.
Well, because I asked my staff, I asked the staff to provide me with the detail.
Well, come to Councilman Gables, Councilman Giglio, we work with you. And I told you already, well, I won't-
No, we
You
just,
can't. You can't have 3 board members sit together and work on something, but it would be nice if everything was shared. I'm closing the public
Go ahead.
hearing. I'm gonna leave it
Last
open.
word.
Can I say something?
yes, you bet.
I'm sorry.
Wow.
I know. But I am a resident and a taxpayer and
That's
a
right.
citizen. I just want to say this isn't exactly on the budget. Denise Civiletti, 718 Mill Road, Riverhead. The state law that you prepare the budget pursuant to requires the supervisor to present the budget to the town September 30th. Requires you to have a public hearing on a preliminary budget by the Thursday after Election Day. Presumably, it was always my understanding, the time in between those 2 dates was a time during which the town board was supposed to work on a budget, work on the supervisor's budget, tweak it, amend it, etc., to come up with a preliminary budget to present to us.
That's right.
Because when you have a hearing on a budget that is still a work in progress, that you haven't had public discussion of amendments on, and that you are going to revise between now and the statutory date by which you have to adopt it, which is November 20th, that leaves the public in the dark, and it leaves the public without an opportunity to speak on the budget, which is what this is all about.
That's right.
Supposed to be. Now, I'm sure that's not your intention, and I know the budget is very thick and complicated, and the issues are very difficult. But this is the third year that I've been observing this, that this is how it's transpired. And I just don't think it's fair to the public.
Well, that's why.
So that's all. That's my
I
comment.
just want to answer your question. That's why last Thursday, we were supposed to have a budget workshop at our, but it was canceled by two council people, that workshop.
And probably a hurricane.
So.
Yeah, it could have had something to do with
But
it, that
anyway,
we had meetings
but
set up
still,
during the
state
hurricane
law
days.
says you have to do these things by a certain date. So a hurricane can't postpone those dates unless the state says that it passes legislation that says you can. That's why my question was, do we have to have another public hearing?
And I have the answer.
And I haven't received that answer.
I have
Other than holding up a piece of paper saying, I have an answer.
You just got it from
Okay?
the town attorney.
I just got this from the town attorney because I did ask the town attorney as to whether or not we would have to have another public hearing. And with all due respect to Ms. Civiletti and her comments, the items that we found in the budget are errors in calculations. They're not changing positions other than what we've spoken about today, which is maybe reinstating the Youth Bureau, reinstating the Personnel Director. We did have a natural disaster. We did have meetings set up with the Chief Financial Officer. We did have meetings set up with other people in Town Hall. We were waiting for information from the senior department, who she was on vacation. So there's a lot of coordination, and as things come up and are brought to our attention, we feel that we need to be prudent and explore all of them. And if we did not get to explore all of them because there was new information that was provided to us yesterday, if we did not get to explore all that information prior to the public hearing, there is an opinion. It's effective August 17th, 2004 from Westlaw, McKinney's Town Law 109, and it says, after the public hearing, the town board may further change, alter, and revise the preliminary budget subject. However, to the requirements of subdivision 1 of section 107 of this chapter, which reads, it's pretty lengthy, but I can give you a copy of it. But you have that section of the budget. So the preliminary budget can be changed after the public hearing. And the changes that we are seeking are errors in the budget.
In your opinion, there are errors. All right, I'm going to close the public hearing out. I'm going to use the gavel.
$18,000 worth.
Public hearing closed. I'll leave it open for written comment until November 16th, Friday, November 16th. Have your written comments in to the town clerk's office by 4:30. And Supervisor Mia got me, I like this gavel. I think this is good. We should use this more. I think Supervisor Janoski used to use it. Did Supervisor Janoski use it? You sat on the board.
I think he bought it.
I've never ever used it. Okay, so we have a second public hearing scheduled for 2:10, and this is a consideration of an amendment to the Town of Riverhead Freshwater Wetlands Inventory Map for McGann Mercy High School, and we're going to open that public hearing. And Bob, if you just want to give us a brief overview.
Sure. Mercy McGann has been doing a great deal of work. They've been ambitious with their premises over the last couple of years, and they've moved some things around. For any of us who have had occasion to drive past Mercy, you know that they relocated the baseball field further east and removed it from being a combination baseball field, football field. When they did that, they caused the second field, which they used to have two baseball fields, or two fields, one towards the westerly end, which was close to Roanoke Avenue, one that was closer to the school on the easterly end. they discontinued that second field. That caused them to take a look at where could they put another field, in this case a softball field. And their proposal involves that underlying issue of placement of a softball field at an area denoted as a recharge basin, but it's a wetland. It's denoted as a DEC wetland. It's denoted as a Town of Riverhead CAC inventoried wetland that they are proposing to place 4,700, that's 4,700 cubic yards of fill, and utilize that for purposes of a softball field. That would be, if anyone's familiar with the site, if you were traveling east on Middle Road, you would go past their entrance on Middle Road, past the tennis courts, and then there's a wooded area. They're proposing to put it in that corner, the northeasterly corner of the premises, just before you turn down Ostrander. So as you pass the tennis courts, traveling east, and make the right-hand turn on Ostrander, there's an area there where they're proposing to fill and place a girls' softball diamond. As part of that consideration, they are looking to enhance the wetlands that are to the west, and again, along Middle Road, by adding to those wetlands and removing the current track.
3 times larger, right?
That's what they're indicating in their
Right, 3
proposal.
times.
I haven't done the math. I'm
They
gonna
did
tell you,
the-
I haven't done the math.
They came to a work session and they're making that wetlands 3 times larger.
The DEC permit reflects that it's a 3-to-1 ratio of the wetlands.
Correct. So they're looking to utilize that for, not only for enhancement, but also for studying. So they would plant wetland species there and have classes come and analyze them and learn from the plantings. And they do have, as noted by Councilwoman Giglio, a DEC permit. The DEC permit was issued and is authorizing this action. We're hearing this because under Chapter 107 of the Code of the Town of Riverhead, when the wetland maps were designated back, I guess was the 80s, any amendments to those wetland maps require one of 2 ways. One would be upon an application of the applicant. The other would be on the town board's own motion. In this case, the applicant has made the Chapter 107 application and is seeking to remove that wetland from the town designated map. And again, as I said, fill it with 4,700 cubic yards of fill, and then enhance the westerly wetland that's where the track used to be, where the track used to be, or a circle.
All right,
So-
what I'd like to do is incorporate the entire, I don't have it in front of me, but Bob, I'd like to incorporate the entire planning department file on this matter into the public hearing record for the town board went through this at work session. Couple salient points. Right now, McGann Mercy's property does not take stormwater. When they came into the work session, and I'm surprised they're not here, when they came into the work session, they told us that this new wetland scenario will allow them to take some stormwater from the town road, which they have no legal obligation to do, nor do they do now. So the DEC has issued this permit to, as Councilwoman Giglio said, it's a 3-to-1 ratio. For every acre they take out, they've got to put 3 acres of wetlands in, and that's what's being proposed to be done. So it's really more a moving of the wetlands than it is eliminating it. That being said, does anybody wish to be heard on the matter? Not.
Yeah, can I just say something on record? I've received a lot of correspondence from people who live in that area about their basements flooding, and I thought that this second wetlands that they want to fill in now was dug to take rain runoff from our roads. People have been living here longer than 42 years, and that's how long as I've been living here, said that that's not correct, that wetlands comes from a stream that's underneath and runs all the way down to the Peconic River. And that they're afraid that if that's filled in, that the basements will get the water again, from the stream and come up into the basements instead of coming up into that wetlands. I would just like to know if our engineer could go out and make sure that this doesn't or will not occur, because I don't want to move one problem to another problem and have our homeowners being flooded out, their basements being flooded out. I remember years ago that Roanoke Avenue used to have hoses coming out of their basements and pumping their basements out. So I just don't want that to happen anymore. If this is going to give that problem, I'd like our engineers to say, this is the problem we're going to have. Because usually when you fix something, one place, it moves something, a problem to another place. Like 58, we made that wider. Now we moved the problem down towards 25 to 105, which backs up. So I mean, I just like our engineer to look at it and see what happens.
All right, I'm just, before I was, it's not a stream, it's groundwater. Before I was town supervisor, before I was an attorney, I was an environmental engineer for the Air Force. Even though I don't hold an engineering degree, that's a title I had. It's not a freshwater stream, it's groundwater. When the groundwater rises, it will percolate up through the basement. I am stunned and shocked that Mercy are not here to present this application. But these were things that we discussed at the work session, and I thought that the answers were given to us. So what I'm going to do is, Bob, I want to hold this public hearing open and have Mercy come out.
Nothing
with their
was
engineers.
discussed about basements filling up with water or getting water.
No, but it's groundwater.
That stream runs
It's
all
not
the way
a stream.
down. Someone showed me a map that stream runs all the way down through the pond, across the street, and then to the old duck pond. Anybody knows where the old duck pond was on 58, through there and down across Northfield Turnpike to the bay.
What
So I
John,
don't know.
what
I
I'm
don't
gonna
know.
do, I'm leaving the public hearing open until the next town board meeting, and I'm requesting that Mercy come and present this. And if it would be in Mercy's best interest to be here. I'm again stunned and shocked that they're not here. I don't understand. And what I'll do is we'll adjourn it until the next board meeting. Diane, if you can, we'll start this public hearing first at the next board meeting, and we'll have Mercy come in. All right, let's move on. We'll hold this one in abeyance.
Thank you.
Let's move on to public hearing 220 having arrived. This is a consideration of expenditures of the community preservation funds in an amount not to exceed $900,000 for costs and expenses related to the necessary to create an open space preserve, including but not limited to the purchase of property along Horton Avenue. Bob, do you want to present this at all, or is Anne Marie?
I don't believe Anne Marie's here. This is essentially our contribution in order to acquire the properties in and around Horton Avenue as a result of the March 2010 storm events. As a result of those events, the town first sought funding from FEMA, which was not granted to us, and then from the state emergency management, New York State Office of Emergency Management, and we did receive funding. That funding required that the town contribute
12.5%. Yeah.
That's correct, for the purposes of purchasing the properties, which we have commenced action on. Contracts were signed, a series of closings have taken place, and this is looking to button that up so that we can further that goal, which was carried out already. That's correct.
Okay, Mr. Romano.
I think you answered most of the questions I was going to ask, but this is then just, it's not a hearing. It sounds like it's a formality that it's said and done.
Well, without this hearing being granted, then we wouldn't be able to
able to
utilize the
use
source of
CPF funds.
We'd have funds from general funds.
These funds are monies that are already in the bank.
Correct.
That's correct.
The question that I do have then is, I remember again reading somewhere that I think, Sean, you may have said it, or maybe I made it up, that the CPA fund is actually really, really low, and that you envision a time that if monies don't start flowing in there, that fund is going to have to be funded through the general fund.
It is, but it's getting better, and it's getting better because what happened was the town of Riverhead sold bonds or authorized the sale of bonds, and we didn't expend about $4 million, Bill, and we took $3 million and put it back to pay debt service down, to put it back into our reserves to pay the debt service. So we were going to run out of money in 2018. What are we going to, now we're out, we're
Another 2 years possibly, but we also accounted for this 900,000 before we took the 3 million out. So it's already accounted for. The reason for this resolution is because we are not sure now how much of the CPF funds are paying for the purchase of the property or the demolition of the buildings.
We're not using it for demolition. The county's doing the demolition. This
Okay,
is
but this allows us to
purchase of property and
spend.
a making of a park, not a park, wetlands.
But the bonds that we sold only allow us to purchase the property. If we take it out of CPF revenues as opposed to bonds, then we can use that money to build a park or open space or demolish the building or whatever it may be. And because we're not sure, we wanted to do it this way, so we weren't stuck at a closing because even $5,000 of our money was to build a park or to demolish a building. So this gives us the latitude. We already allocated this money in the past, and now we just have the latitude of spending it however the closing determines for us to spend it. So whether it's demolition or purchase of the property or even putting a park in, we can spend it now with this money also.
Can I
mix and
ask
match.
a question? Bill, can I ask you a question? Is this money part of our share of the federal funds that we're getting? Because I thought we got federal funds to purchase that property. Is this our share of that?
We got 2.6 million, and this is our share to match that 2.6 million.
So
Yes.
we don't get federal funds for free. We always have to share and put a portion of it, whether it be 5% or 10%, and this is our
This
share.
was 12.5%,
Okay.
I believe was the number.
Okay.
And the county also agreed to contribute, I think, 12.5%, although I believe most of their contribution will be in-kind services.
Right. Okay, no, that's all I wanted, just to answer his question. This is something that we have to do to get that money from the federal government. We have to give our share and help them out.
Who's actually getting the 900,000?
These are for the purchases. This is for the purchase of the homes. So the federal government, if I say this right, they're paying us to purchase the homes. We're going to purchase the homes, 12.5% of that we have to pay. That's what this money is.
So there's 12 houses in there?
12 houses, yes.
So the 12 homeowners will split the 900,000.
The homeowners are getting the money. We had the property appraised, and we are paying appraisal, whatever they come back as appraised at, that's what we're paying the homeowners.
And we may not spend the whole 900,000.
For them to get other homes, if they have to get mortgages, they have to get mortgages on their own. We're not buying them new homes. All we're doing is purchasing the homes that were at the appraised value.
We're buying open space.
Yeah.
I think I was going to say that that's exactly what we're doing, as opposed to buying development rights from farmland. What we're acquiring is a fee interest or open space. I think it's 12 houses, but it may not be 12 properties. I think there's one property that had 3 houses on it. What was required under the funding source was that we go out, gain an appraisal for each piece of property, negotiate with the property owner in question, enter into a contract of sale, and then close. This 900,000 will be a contribution towards each of those acquisitions. That will be piggybacking those federal funds or those FEMA source funds. To acquire the land, then it's my understanding the county is going to contribute by demolishing the structures and removing them, and then if there's further funds, we can establish a wetland area or open space area for the future.
How much property are we getting?
The total acreage?
Yeah.
Maybe the chief know how much property we're getting?
I would be guessing 12 acres, 10 acres. 10 properties, but the total acre.
I would think they look like you're about a quarter acre property.
I couldn't tell you what the total acreage
They're
is.
small pieces of property, they're not acre properties, they're fairly small,
Well, that's the reason why I asked.
fairly small.
Because if it's, let's say, 3 acres, it sounds more like a good neighbor policy than a CPF purchase where you would get more open property for 900,000. And I don't have a major issue with it, but I think we should call it what it is then. Because 900,000 would seem, in EPCAL, you could buy quite a few acres over there. So
Understood.
am I incorrect?
Understood.
But they're not approved property. This is approved property. If we go on West Main Street to buy a piece of property, just like the motel, that was approved property, so we had to pay what the appraisal came back on that motel, which was quite a bit of money.
Right.
So if it's improved, we have to pay what the appraisal is, and they're going to give it the market value on that. If he sold it privately, what that would pay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else wish to be heard on this matter? Not seeing anybody, I will leave it, close the public comment portion, leave it open for written comment until November 16th, 4:30 in the town clerk's office. We have resolutions. Does anybody wish to be heard on resolutions?
We just gotta do one change.
Bear with us. What?
No, I'll wait.
What change?
Resolution 852 is actually CBA 16.
CDA 16?
852 is CBA 16.
It should have been part of the Community Development Agency resolution package since it involves a community development
So
agency.
am I taking it off and making CDA resolution 16?
Right, and then it will require a series of amendments because
Is
it's
this a
the first.
sister, we're gonna need also as a sister resolution to the
No,
board?
no.
And then we were moving a couple to then take that number. So 869 would be 852.
Eight what?
869 would be 852.
And then 870 is 860.
870 is 869, correct, exactly.
870 is
Is
8.
869.
All right, and what's the amendment to the resolution 16?
On 16, the title would be Town of Riverhead Community Development Agency Resolution as opposed to Town of Riverhead. So that would be changed. The resolution number obviously becomes 16. Wherever the word supervisor appears, it'll be substituted with the word chairman. The second line in the title, addendum between the Town of Riverhead Community Development, insert the word agency between development and. In the first whereas,
On the agreement?
right, on the top, agency. On the first whereas, where it says Riverhead Town Board, that should be the CDA. Staying in the first whereas, on the fourth sentence, where it says supervisor, that should become chairman. Going down to the first resolved, now therefore be resolved, in the first line, again, Riverhead Town Board should become CDA. And in the second sentence where it says supervisor, that should become chairman.
And is the agreement okay, or does that need to be changed as well?
It says Community Development Agency, I believe the agreement is
Right. It says
in a
CDA.
substantial compliance form.
Okay. All right. Is that it?
That's
Diane?
That's all the changes.
Well,
Dominique?
unfortunately,
Yes.
there's a 15 that has to be brought credit to. Only because it talks about the supervisor.
Okay.
There's corrections in the
Yes,
CBA.
yes,
Well, let you work on that one.
right, okay.
Okay, what do you got, Dominique?
Yeah, I wanted to ask,
What do you, I'm sorry. Good afternoon. How are you doing this
Good afternoon.
rainy, windy day?
doing very well. I luckily didn't lose electricity at all, so I'm a happy woman.
So showers at Dominique's house?
That's right.
You're
Hey, I already had my mom staying with me
Without
for
power.
over a week.
What do we do for you?
That's enough.
families, but enough.
That was good. So that's not what this is about. I just wanted to ask a question. Are there any resolutions off the floor today?
Yes, there is one resolution.
Just give me an idea of the gist of it.
It's a personnel matter.
Okay, and that's it?
What is the resolution
Great.
off the floor? Well, wait, I don't, what is the resolution off the floor? What is the personnel matter off the floor? Are you going to share that with the town board?
Yes, I was going to pull it off after the resolutions are called, which these are normally done at that time.
That's okay. It's just that there was public comment.
You can pass them down.
I just wanted to ask in case I wanted to comment.
Well, Jim and George, the majority of the town board wants to move in this direction.
Are you kidding me? You're going to bring a resolution terminating an employee off the floor
Yep.
without conversation?
No, there could have been conversation when it was pulled
Well,
off
it
the
doesn't
floor.
actually, it's not.
You have to be kidding me.
All right, we're moving forward.
We haven't even.
You're trying to
Wait,
terminate
we haven't
your
even
town
spoke
board
about this.
coordinator off the floor. The insensitivity of that is awe-inspiring.
That's right. We haven't spoke about this at any gathering, an executive session of the town board. And I think that
can't believe
before
you could
anything
be
like
that
this.
insensitive. I'm not voting to take it off the floor. How'd you find out about that?
I didn't. It was completely related to something else. I had no idea.
Insensitive
It is.
thing
I'm done,
that
thank you.
I've ever seen anybody do, and
Yes.
to not the disrespect for the rest of the board, to not discuss that in work session. So you're coming in here, not showing anybody this, and you're terminating an employee. How dare you?
It's
Good luck.
it's impossible, and
Can I
if any
take up
board members
resolutions,
voted for
please?
this, something's wrong.
Something's absolutely wrong.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we stop the town board meeting and open the community development agency meeting for resolution. So moved.
Second.
Giglio,
Yes.
Gabrielson,
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
This opens the CDA board meeting. Resolution number 15. Are we
Yes,
making the same changes?
As Councilman Wooten pointed out, we need to make the same changes to this resolution that were being proposed to Resolution 16. In that wherever the word supervisor appears, it should be substituted with the word chairman. Wherever town board appears, it should say CDA. So there should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 changes to the resolution. Similarly, the retainer agreement must also be amended to reflect Town of Riverhead Community Development Agency. Wherever a town board appears, that should be CDA. And there will be a series of changes to the retainer agreement.
There'd be a motion to adopt as amended?
That's correct.
Somebody.
John, can you move the resolution as amended?
Okay, are you gonna read it, or, I'll read it. Appoints the law firm of Smith, Finkelstein, Lumberg, Isla, and Yakubowski as special counsel in connection with the lease, purchase, and development of approximately 7.3 acres located within EPCAL by the YMCA of Long Island Incorporated, and authorize the chairman of the board to execute a retainer agreement regarding same. Moved as amended.
And I'll second.
Giglio,
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten,
Yes.
Dunleavy.
I'm gonna say yes because this is a great project, and it's great for the town, and it's great for the citizens of the town of Riverhead. So I'm voting yes for this.
Walter.
Yes.
The resolution is therefore duly adopted. Resolution 16 authorizes the chairman to execute runway use agreement addendum between the Town of Riverhead Community Development Agency and Altitude Express Incorporated, DBA, Skydive Long Island, address change.
So moved.
As amended.
moved as amended.
Giglio?
Yes.
Gabrielson?
Yes.
Wooten?
Yes.
Dunleavy?
Yes.
And Walter.
Yes.
The resolution is therefore duly adopted, and that completes the business of the CDA.
Thank you. I'd like to close the CDA meeting and reopen the town board meeting for resolutions. So moved.
And second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
The town board meeting is now reopened. Resolution 828.
Closure of bank accounts in Capital One and Suffolk County National Bank. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 829.
General fund budget adjustment. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 830.
General Fund Justice Court Budget Adjustment. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 831.
General fund nutrition department budget adjustment. So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 832.
Port and Avenue Open Space Capital Project Budget Adjustment. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 833.
Riverhead sewer rehabilitation budget adjustment. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 834.
2012 Law Enforcement Facility Improvement Project Budget Adjustment. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 835.
Auction of town disposed assets. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 836.
Auction of town's disposed assets. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 837.
Water district budget adjustment. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 838.
Street Lighting Budget Adjustment. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 839.
CDBG 2012 program budget adoption. So moved.
Seconded.
You know, I thought we were putting something in here for Maureen's Haven.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah, so did yesterday.
What we can do is go five, last year we did 5 and 5 for this one here. Gave them 5 and Maureen's had 5.
No, I think we didn't give,
Why such an odd number for the bicycle path? Is that what we needed to complete it?
no, this is what we're gonna use for the streetlights. Chris, is this resolution critical to pass right now for the CDBG today?
No, we can bump it to the next, it's just the budget lines for our application.
All right, so I wanna talk about Maureen's Haven. Can we,
Okay.
can I get a motion to, can you withdraw your motion?
Yeah, I'm gonna withdraw my motion and make a motion to table, resolution 839. So moved.
I know we talked about Maureen's Haven.
I'll second the table.
Moved and seconded as the table.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
The resolution is tabled. Resolution 840.
This is an amendment to the procurement policy. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 841.
Authorization to publish advertisement 2012 or 2013 Type 3 ambulance for town of Riverhead. So moved.
And seconded.
We have some discussion. Bill, this type 3 ambulance, this one's not in our package before. Do you know about this?
That's actually for the ambulance one?
Yeah, to advertise for a brand new
Yeah, I can. I think I discussed, did I discuss this with you? That the ambulance wanted to get 2012 prices instead of 2013. In our contract with them, we have an ambulance, if it's 12 years old, for them to go out and purchase another ambulance.
I'd
And
like to table
I
this
thought
to-
that we just, well, all right, what we want to do is try to get the bids in so we can get a 2012 price.
I don't know that their ambulances are 12 years old. We have a meeting we're trying to set up with the ambulance. What's that?
Most likely tomorrow evening.
I'd like to table this to do some more research. The ambulance, $75,000 piece of equipment, or more.
I understand it, but if we have it in their contract, I
don't know that
think
we
we have
do,
to
because
honor
we
them.
didn't discuss it.
So, yeah, we can, I can make a
Does
motion.
this say
to
to
table.
purchase? It just says to get a bid.
To get bids, that's all.
I don't think it was in my packet. I would have said something.
You know, this is only for bids
I
though.
would have said something.
I remember having this discussion with John,
Yeah.
that we would get the 2012
Yeah.
price, am I correct?
Yeah.
Right.
And that's, but I know you have here 12 or 13, so if they don't get the 12, then they can get the 13,
Yeah,
which is
but
gonna be
this is
odd.
just for bids.
But is there a need for this?
It's just for bids, that's all. We're not, it don't say we're gonna purchase it, we're just gonna bid it out and see what the prices
All
are.
right, then put it forward, but until we resolve the issue of their budget, which we're still waiting for them to submit to us, and medical billing, this is something that,
Well, I thought I thought we would have a reserve fund for
Yeah, they
the
are.
purchase of ambulance equipment. Remember we set that reserve fund up?
Yes, we did. but
So,
they-
I just
Until
don't-
they get the billing in place, the reserve fund is gonna be used to pay their budget unless something changes. There's a lot of issues here that the ambulance company needs to
Yeah,
talk
well,
to the town
I
about.
agree with billing, but I don't wanna, and the reason why we're billing is because we don't wanna decrease the medical response to our residents in the town of Riverhead. And again, if we're taking money out of their reserve fund that was set up to purchase vehicles, we are decreasing, that to pay their general fund, and I just don't think that's right. And, it's only for a bid,
All right,
so,
I'll
you know.
vote for the advertisement, that's fine. So,
Okay.
George, did you move it?
Yes.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter. Resolution adopted. Resolution 842.
Street lighting district budget adjustment, so moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
So reviews with money. Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 843.
Ratifies the appointment of a call-in recreation bus driver to the recreation department, so moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter. Resolution adopted.
And the reason I'm voting for this is because, this driver can also be used as a call-in for our senior program. So, I mean, it's a dual, thing. If somebody comes in sick, calls in sick, we can call this driver in.
Resolution 844.
Appoints part-time call-in personnel for the Riverhead Youth Bureau's 2012 Mentoring Matters Program. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 845.
Appoints a call and recreation leader to the Recreation Department. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 846.
Appoints a call and recreation aide one to the Recreation Department. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 847.
Appoints approves Chapter 90 application of the Lions Club of Riverhead Incorporated Annual Christmas Parade and Assembly, December 2nd, 2012. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 848.
Adopts a local law to amend Chapter 108 of the Riverhead Town Code entitled Zoning, 108-56.1, Sign Permits. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes, this is, all this is doing is extending,
6 months to 1 year.
6 months to a year for the sign permits, so you can have a sign. So I say yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 849.
Adopts a local law amending Chapter 110 entitled Stormwater Management, Erosion, and Sediment Control of the Riverhead Town Code. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 850.
Authorizes town clerk to publish and post public notice to consider a local law to amend Chapter 108 entitled Zoning of the Riverhead Town Code. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 851.
Recreation Fund budget adjustment. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 852, which was formerly 869.
Approves Chapter 90 application.
No, it's this one.
Which one? 852.
Authorize
Yeah.
supervisor to execute a stipulation, isn't it?
No,
Yes, John didn't do it.
It was 869.
Oh, 869. Okay, I have 59. Approves the, oh, that's not me anyway.
It's
George.
George.
Wait a second, what number are we on now?
852, right?
852. It was 869.
Which was 869, okay.
869 became 852.
859.
Right.
870 became 870.
Shuffle. So
Shuffle everything around.
869.
Fine, 869.
Our resolutions are out of whack today.
I don't have 869. You have it?
Yes. On the back.
Pay bills. Pay bills.
Yep. Okay, 869. Authorize supervisor to execute a stipulation with local 1000 AFSCME, AFL-CIO, Riverhead Unit of the Suffolk Local Number 852, and authorize the supervisor to enter an agreement with an employee setting terms and conditions of employment. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 853.
853, authorize the town attorney to order an updated appraisal for a property owned by the Town of Riverhead Community Development Agency and Riverhead Water District, and that's the Roanoke Nursery School, Inc., Riverhead Country Day School, and that's 165 Columbus Avenue, Riverhead. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 854.
Authorizes the supervisor to execute professional services agreement with Munistat Services, Inc. for 2012 and 2013. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 855.
Authorization to publish advertisement of a request for proposals for insurance brokerage services. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 856.
Authorize the supervisor to execute a writer agreement for the consultant/professional services with Nexterion LLC DBA Black Box Network Services. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 857.
Approves the Chapter 90 application of Event Power, that's Riverhead Rocks Triathlon, June 29th and 30th, 2013. So moved.
And seconded?
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
I just want to say the cardboard boat race is traditionally scheduled for last Sunday in June. So that Sunday, they're going to be here. We're going to move the cardboard boat race back to Saturday, June 29th. Okay, so moved. Yes.
Wooten.
I have a question. They got two dates here. What?
Well, the first date for the triathlon is just a setup date. They bring their trailers and whatnot.
From 10 to
So
6.
nothing's really going on, but they volunteered to help us with the cardboard boat race on that Saturday, so it should work out nicely.
Very good. Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 858.
Authorizes town supervisor to execute final change order for Peconic Avenue Crosswalk Improvement Project. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 859.
Approves Chapter 90 application of Competitive Events Group, 2013 Deep Pond Triathlon, August 17th and 18th, 2013. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 860.
860 declares Route 58 LLC in default in connection with site plan approval of the construction of a bowling center. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 861.
Denial of special permit application of Rose's Cafe, Inc., DBA Michelle's Cafe. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
There's only 20 reasons why, huh? Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 862.
Authorizes waiver of fees for permits necessary to repair or replace storm-damaged premises. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
30 days. Okay. Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 863.
Awards bid for calcium hypochlorite tablets for use for the Riverhead Water District. So moved.
Hey, we finally found some. Yeah, seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 864.
This authorizes town clerk to publish and post notice to bidders for water service materials. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 865.
Water Department budget adjustment. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 866.
Amends the appointment of Lori Zaneski to fill vacancy in position of tax receiver for the town of Riverhead, non-Pocatuck. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes, I just want to congratulate her on being elected to fill the term of the retiring member. I vote yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 867.
Appoints a deputy tax receiver. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 868.
Adopts a local law amending Chapter 37, Article 3, Early Retirement Incentive Program for eligible full-time employees who are members of the Civil Service Employees Association Incorporated of the Riverhead Town Code. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
I'm going to vote yes. This has been successful in the previous ones that we've had. And we want to continue trying to lower the salaries of our departments. So I vote yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 869.
869, that's from what, 8?
Is that
That was
852?
It was 870, now it's pay bills.
Okay, pay bills.
Yeah.
So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted.
Okay, I'd like to pull a resolution number 870 off the floor, terminating an employee
can I
from the
see a copy
position
of this
of the
resolution?
town board coordinator.
So without any,
So moved.
So moved.
without any
I'll second.
And
conversation,
seconded. Moved and seconded, vote
without
please.
discussion, no, he's not the supervisor, Diane.
We're moving, she took it off the floor. Why
Would
did she
you,
took it off the floor?
it is, she is not, you are not the supervisor.
We're moving it on.
You are not the
We
supervisor.
can move it and do it.
Would you just let me speak? Your ego is so big, I
There we
just
go.
want to speak.
Then when is he speaking
You
in
can
vote?
have discussion, and I'm asking for discussion.
You can only do after a second.
It
After
is
you-
discussion.
We second, we're moving it to move it. You
So this
understand
is
that?
what you're gonna do. Without any possible conversation with the town board, as a whole, you are summarily firing the town board coordinator for what reason?
Well, for one, I'll be honest with you, you didn't want anything to do with this when you were appointed anyway.
That's not true.
You said it doesn't serve my office, but you guys are.
You made that clear, Sean, I've heard it. This
So-
is not my
so
office,
you
I
are
am not interested in
summarily
talking about it.
firing-
Now, that's the first point.
You're but I'm
That's the first one.
20%
It really
of
doesn't-
the
it
board.
doesn't
Diane,
concern
please
your
call the vote.
We're not giving-
Giglio.
Diane,
Yes.
Diane.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
You know, I
I
can't
am-
vote for this, the highest family member to take her place. And I will not, she does a good job, just because we have this situation, I vote no.
Well, I'm going to register my objection. I'd like the town attorney to research whether this vote is legal. I asked for discussion. They did not allow discussion. So now we have to move.
It's your turn to talk.
Now
It's
we
your
have
turn
to
to vote.
move to have discussion. So I'd like to have discussion. Because you didn't adopt it, you just took it off the floor.
Right, so yes or no, you're the next one up.
No.
Okay, said no, okay.
So I want discussion, Diane. Do not call the
Yes.
vote until we have discussion.
Okay, so-
Now, since you're making this a public debacle, a public spectacle, and you don't want to include two of the board members, so I guess John and I don't count, 40% of the board don't count, you're going to deal with this all on your own. I personally happen to believe she's a whistleblower. I personally know that she has registered a complaint against a certain individual board member, and I think she's a whistleblower. And I think what you're doing is retaliation for her raising a complaint.
I'm not aware of any complaint filed
I'm-
against any board member.
I'm aware of a complaint.
Jim,
Well,
are
that's
you?
not what's driving this.
I'm
That's not
aware
what
of a
driving
complaint.
this, because
No, I know
never
what's,
knew of any
I
complaint.
know what's driving it, and, you
And
know, I think
so
it's
I
a shame.
personally believe that this is retaliation for her actions.
For something we
And
didn't know about.
But, you know, you're the ones that want to have this in public conversation. This is something that should have been discussed in executive session. And Councilman Giglio, you're the one that brought Linda Hulse to the table. You're the one that said Linda Hulse would be a wonderful town board coordinator. And you don't think that she deserves the common decency? There's not one town employee, not one, that we let go that I didn't sit down to and talk to individually. This is the most heartless act I've ever seen an employer do.
It is,
It is the most heartless act.
It is.
Diane,
You
can
don't
you-
think that,
Diane,
no,
can you please
we're
call the
having
vote?
conversation because I've
Resolution
asked for
870.
discussion. Diane, please
Terminates
don't
the
call
employee from the
resolution.
position of town board coordinator.
We
So
are
moved.
having discussion on
And
the
seconded.
resolution. You can't move a resolution that we're having discussion on.
Well, we're at the point where it was moved off the floor.
And we're having discussion on the resolution.
On the resolution
On the
itself.
resolution.
Right, the resolution
So
itself.
please don't call the
There can't be
resolution
a
while
roll
we're
call vote while
having
there's a discussion.
discussion. So I want to have discussion on the resolution.
Well, I can.
What is the issue?
I can say this, because it's so much like so many other personnel that we so colorfully label as, we can't discuss that, it's a personnel issue.
So why don't we
Whether it's
do it in
Lou
town
Parnesi
work
or
session?
whether,
Yeah.
I'll tell you why, Sean, because it really comes down to, an at-will employee, and the majority of the board feels that the board should move in a different direction, and to come out with getting in a tit for tat, and I'm this and you're that, and it's disruptive, it's divisive,
You
and
don't
it really,
think this is disruptive and divisive?
Yes, I think it is. I
You
absolutely
don't
think
think
it is.
letting an
think it is.
employee, calling an employee in who's sitting out there right now, probably hysterical if she hasn't gone home,
Well,
calling an employee
This
in
is not-
first, like every single employee that I've
but
had
if
to
you,
let go.
if you don't think for a minute that this comes easily and that this is somebody licking their chops because
No, I
they like
think you're
what's
cowards.
I
I think
don't-
you're absolute
no.
cowards.
Yes.
Well,
Absolute
that's your
cowards.
opinion, and you've been
The
wrong many
three of
times.
you
But I
are
th-
You're wrong on this
absolute
issue.
cowards.
But I think it does come
A
easily
man,
for all three of you
a real
people.
man
I really
or
do.
a real woman sits down with the employee and talks to
That's
them.
right.
A coward pulls this off
Yes.
the floor without saying anything to anybody
true.
in secret and tries to fire the employee. That's a coward.
I
You are
would
cowards.
say,
I would tend
this
to
is
agree
no
with you, except that-
incident now. This
that
goes
you're not-
over
I
many,
don't
many
hear-
months.
no,
It's a
I'm not a
confidential
coward by any
employee, and
chance.
if they've got to feel comfortable with them. And you've said,
I don't hear
I
this in
stay
the
out of
paper, I don't hear
your
it.
town coordinator's business, or your employees, the same as I don't go in, your at-will
Yes, you did. You
employees, we
went into
don't go
my
in.
office and told my employees you were gonna write them out of the budget.
I didn't.
You did
Not
too.
true. Joe Lewis, it's sport, she knows that. No, now you're
I don't,
square straws, so I'm just
I
waiting
don't
for you both to
understand.
move.
We're
No,
having
George,
discussion.
can I just ask you a question?
Can't move it while we're having discussion, and I don't care how late we stay here for
I know
discussion.
that you're a farmer, and I know, I come from a business community where we had many employees, and anybody we had to let go, we brought in and spoke to them, gave them the reasons why we had to let them go before they were let go. This is, and I have to say, this is a coward's position, that you are afraid to talk to the employee and face the employee and tell the employee what the reasons are that you're letting them go. And, in fact, I never knew nothing about this till just now. I mean, I'm a town board member, you know, no one's ever discussed this with me. So, I mean, I don't understand where, I know the 3 years, consort for different things, and, I just think that, that this is wrong, and, I may lose this vote, which probably I will, but I just want to condemn this town board for doing this, cowardly thing that they're doing. As a board member, I just can't see this, being done.
I would like to.
Like this, if you want it, yes, let's have a discussion, let's bring them in, talk to them, and then, give them 2 weeks' notice like every other employee does, and let them go. But this way is just cowardly, to sneak it in like this, you know, it's bad. And it shows that people up here are not out for the town employees, they're only out for themselves.
Well, it's not an at-will employee, first of all, and that's not true.
Have you spoken
That's
to
not
legal
true.
counsel?
I have.
And what does Richard Zuckerman or the law firm say? I think we should go into executive session. I'd like to go into, I'd like a motion to go into
Well,
executive
you asked
session.
a question, and then you don't be quiet long enough to even give a response.
You can't give the response because it's legal advice. If you're gonna
Oh,
give the legal
okay.
advice, let's go into executive session. No, we're not, I'm not relinquishing the floor on this motion unless we go into executive session. I don't care if I sit here all night.
right, Bob, just being objective here.
You're being objective?
No, I'm just, not on that issue, on a different issue.
Oh,
And
no,
these
no.
situations, I'm talking, please, with respect.
I didn't say a word, George.
I said it, so
I came
speak to me, but
But
we're
Bob,
talking
I'm
about
just
this
curious.
resolution, not another subject.
Can you vote on a resolution? Can the board vote on this resolution?
We're in-
They will have the discussion.
We're
Can
not
we
done
vote?
with discussion.
Can we-
Jim was gonna give us
Is this the time
legal,
for discussion to stop a vote?
Jim was gonna give us legal,
No.
Not
Yeah.
if, not if it requires that we have to go into executive session.
well, I would like to go into executive session to find out what legal information. I'm a town board member as well as a supervisor. John Dunleavy's a town board member. Is he not entitled to that same legal?
I think we're
opinion?
entitled to the courtesy of just listening and finding out what the problem is with this employee. That's all. I'm just
Sure.
asking for a courtesy.
In due respect to my colleagues, Sean, I think
You haven't
you
given
know
us
what's
any
going
respect.
on. We've spoken, I've spoken to you about situations, I know the other board members have situations. You're aware of an environment, maybe that's not.
We've
good
had
as it
this
should be.
employee
Well,
for a year.
I'm just saying,
It's
we've
not
discussed
working
this
out,
always.
and the majority of the board would like to move in a different direction. It affects 4 town board members, and 3 are in favor of terminating the employee. So the town board coordinator is at will by the town board.
Heartless
3
about
of the
that.
4 members would like to move in a different direction.
There's, last time I checked, Jody, when you divide 100 by 5, each of us is 20% of the board.
You know what,
I am
you-
20% of the board.
Maybe
For
at
this
election,
vote,
people will
she
think different, I don't know.
means
It's just that, you know,
something
bad.
to me.
Bad.
And I would like, at the very least, that the board would have the good sense from a legal perspective and heart, so that we can sit down and talk to the town board coordinator. This is an evil act right here. That's what this is.
Well,
This
I
is
think it is,
terrible.
you know,
Absolutely terrible. How many other employees are you planning to fire like this?
Table it.
I mean, that's
But
what I meant.
anyway,
Well,
table
it.
Table it. I'll go for a
yes,
motion to
right?
table
We're
it.
tired of listening to you argue.
I'll go for a motion to
you
table
know,
it.
you know.
Table the bloody resolution.
No, I won't relinquish
Have
the
an
floor.
executive session on your own time, not on
This
ours.
is our
That's it.
time, Rex.
Thank you.
But I just think that, and I think one of the problems is the storm we just had. Our councilman wasn't notified. It's not her job. The supervisor is the leader of the town in emergencies, along with the chief of police. If a board member hears is working on a day that they're having a meeting and we can sit in on a meeting, and I did, and it comes down to me. I did sit in on a meeting and listened. I didn't give any input on that meeting. And then they had another meeting every day, and I came to every day. One board member comes to me and says, well, how did you find out about this? And I said, I was here working on Friday when they had the meeting, and I sat in on it, and he accused our coordinator of not notifying him of the meeting, which he takes her direction from the supervisor, because he is the ultimate person in charge. We didn't even have to be there. It was just a freak that I was there and listened to this and thought I could help out. And other things have happened. I know with Councilman Giglio, she posts,
Yeah, absolutely.
she posts
That's not true,
a schedule.
This was
I'm
made
drawing
before.
conclusions because this is what I
This is your
hear.
opinion,
This
that's all.
should have been said at an executive session, but this was not brought up.
Of course it should be an
So,
executive session.
she posts your schedule every single week, so you know where you're going. She doesn't post any of ours
Actually,
because
not,
you asked her
no,
to do
I
that,
asked her to
and she did
because,
that.
I asked her to because when people were coming to town hall asking where I was, the response
Make a
that they,
motion to table it.
we're not tabling it.
If your council people
All right,
show
I
up
make a
every
motion,
day to
I
work-
make a
That's
motion.
why
I
my
agree with-
calendar is
I-
posted on my
don't-
door, so everybody
I
knows
know
where I
it is,
am
so we'll
every
table
minute
this
during the week.
And
That has
have
to
a
do with town
discussion on
business.
it. I make a motion, we table it, so moved.
We didn't vote on the last motion.
We didn't make a motion. I second
We'll make
that
a
motion to table. Diane, call a vote to table. It's motion's on.
So we did.
we had discussion.
No,
and
but did you make the
discussion's
motion
over.
before?
You
Okay,
had
so,
discussion,
so
discussion's
now
over.
you're making a motion to table.
Yes, I am.
We've taken it off the floor.
We took it off the floor, now there's a motion to table.
Okay, resolution 870 to consideration to table.
No,
I'm sorry, Giglio.
no,
Gabrielson.
No.
Wooten. Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes, discussion, please.
Discussion.
On the motion.
On the motion.
You don't have to repeat it, let them, they can speak for themselves.
You know, you're very rude, and I think that you've been rude ever since you've been elected. So, I mean, you know, that's the way you are, Jimmy.
That's not true.
Okay.
That's not true.
That's
No.
it.
No, it's not true. That's not true.
Well, I'd like legal advice, so I'd like to go into executive session for legal advice. I think it's insane for the town board to be making a decision like this without having the benefit of legal advice. I mean, I just don't understand how you three board members think the town supervisor is not entitled to legal advice, or the other board member is not entitled to legal advice on firing an employee.
it's an at-will employee. I make a motion to end the discussion, so moved.
And I second it.
We're still having discussion.
I don't
Well,
think you can.
there was discussion about going into executive session, but there wasn't a second.
Well, I would second that if that's the call.
I'll tell you what, all you guys are doing is setting us up for a huge lawsuit.
You know, it's just
No, don't be ridiculous, Jim. You're such a board leader. A board leader does not do this.
You know what,
A leader.
Now, let's-
save it for the women, Sean, don't attack me.
It's not personal attack
A leader
here.
sits down with the
Don't you
employee.
attack me.
That's
A
right. We're
leader
not.
sits down with the employee.
You have no idea what I've done.
And discusses
You have no
the
idea who I
situation.
spoke to, what I've discussed.
Does Linda
Just
Hulse
'cause you
know
don't
you're
know,
trying to
just 'cause
fire?
you don't know, doesn't mean it doesn't make it so.
I'm 20% of the board.
So, don't challenge, yeah, you are
I'm
20%,
20%
I'm glad you
of the board.
recognize that.
That's 40% of the board with
The-
John and I, and we don't know anything about this.
So be it.
This,
So, I'd like legal advice. How do I get legal advice? Do you want
It's
to
not
waive
tabled.
attorney-client privilege and
Not
have the
tabled.
town attorney give us legal advice in public on camera? You know, if that's the way you want to go, we'll really get the lawsuit going.
on the table?
Yeah.
I believe that the table was by supervisor with a second by John. The vote was 3 no, 2 yes.
Well, there's nothing on the floor right now, and Mr. Farr obviously has something that he
No,
wants to
we're
get
not
off his
taking
chest,
Mr.
so
Farr.
why don't we
We're
hear
not-
what
you're
the
not the
public
town-
has to say?
Jody, you're not the town supervisor. The town supervisor runs the meeting.
So you'd rather
We're
have him
still
wait
having-
while you discuss it?
We're having conversation. I'd like legal advice on this issue, and you guys won't let us go into
Well,
executive
you
session.
can go into.
Or
No,
I
we have to take a
would
vote.
like-
We haven't taken a
or
vote
I
yet.
would like to table this so
We
that
got no
we
for
can
the
deal
table. The
with
table
it.
was a no.
No.
It's-
Then
so
I
we
would
can't go
like
back.
legal advice.
Well, it's no to table it. We just had that vote, am I correct?
That's
And
correct.
they both recognized.
So I
it's
would
no.
like legal advice. Bob, I'd like legal advice.
I would
What
like-
is your opinion about the method that this is being fired, especially
That's just
given
the
the
way it goes.
circumstances that I believe Linda Hulse is a whistleblower?
This is,
This,
Well,
well, this,
I
that's
can
that's
swear
only
under
for
oath
comment.
Is
that
this-
I don't
I
know of
think
anything
that,
where
That's only for opinion.
the town board coordinator has been a whistleblower on any incident, and I'm surprised that anybody, I mean, Jim, did you know that she's a whistleblower? Do you know that she's a whistleblower? I don't know she's a whistleblower. John, do you know she's a whistleblower?
She came to the town supervisor and
I-
told
Well,
me
whatever,
the
that's not,
circumstances,
that's
and
not
I said
part of
to
the
have it
decision.
investigated.
That's not
So
part of the
John,
decision.
you know what it is. Okay, so one town board member knows.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, how do we move forward with it?
Well,
I
I was
have,
there when they.
no information
No.
as to
No,
whistleblower. However,
let me clarify
Wait,
something.
what were you saying?
I was
I'm
there.
not aware of any.
You're not aware of
I
any
was there when
whistleblower
this
information?
incident happened. And that's why I brought up the hurricane, because she was almost mutilated one day by a council member.
But I will clearly
And
say
I
this
will-
goes before the hurricane. This decision was made, and now 3 of you tell us, this before the hurricane, this decision was made. It has nothing to do with the hurricane. It was before the hurricane that they,
She's an at-will employee, The majority of the board has tried it for a year. We've worked with this person. We are moving in a different direction, and that's why the resolution is before you.
You want to
Okay,
hire
so
family
how come-
members.
When was
That's
the
it.
last, let me ask you, Jody, when was the last time we fired somebody or let somebody go, or did any personnel issue without discussing it in an executive session?
This is an at-will employee
I-
of the town board.
There are
Not the
other
supervisor. The
at-will
supervisor
employees.
has his own at-will employees.
I
And
want
you
to-
can choose to do with those at-will employees, which you whip, if you have the majority of the board to go along with you. The majority of the board has decided this is the direction that we want to go in, and you're trying to stop the process, and I will stay here all night
Good,
as
let's
well.
stay here all night as
But
well.
I just think that it is,
But
Childish
I
of you
just think
guys to
it's,
bring
I
this
just
up
think it's,
without asking
I just think it's common
I'm not
courtesy
sure how we.
to discuss it with the entire town board, so the entire town board knows what's happening, and,
You know, it's,
so we don't do this in public, like we're elementary school, children up here, doing this. I just think that these there should be places where this is discussed and decisions made, and whatever comes out of that meeting, the vote is taken, if it's 3-2 or 4-1 or 5-0. But that's what should happen, and not be here like we just got out of kindergarten and we're having this discussion right now. You know, it's a shame.
you know what bothers me, John? This is a highly respected member of the Riverhead community, and to slap this woman in the face is.
It's up to the board.
inexcusable.
Well,
It's a confidential
if three
thing, so,
members,
yeah.
if three members of the board want to do this, that's their right, and that's their right to win 3-2. I just think that should have been a courtesy to discuss it with us and discuss it with the employee. That's all I'm saying, that the rest of this board here has not had any business sense where they had employees that they had to let go and fire before getting up here, and that this is how they react. Well, we're just gonna fire her, that's it. And I don't think it's right.
You know, and
That's all.
John, the further problem with this is the way this was done, without the benefit of legal advice, there is not one employee, confidential or otherwise, that we did not seek legal advice before we made a personnel issue. And
Yeah.
they're not giving us the common courtesy of seeking legal advice.
But that's their problem with their 3 votes. That's not my problem. If something happens, they're putting the taxpayer at risk and the town at risk for if there's damages or any damages that may happen from anything that we do. But it's just the common courtesy, that's all.
If I could-
Bringing this on me right now, we should have had a discussion, and I could have got my thoughts out to you guys, and if you had a 3-2 vote, that's perfectly all right, right? But at least we had a private discussion on personnel matters in executive session and not at an open meeting here. That's my point, that we're being children about this, and I think that this should be tabled and discussed in an executive session. Then you guys can have your 3 votes. You know, that's okay. But let's have a discussion so we can get a meaningful outright discussion and make a decision. That's all.
Especially considering everything that's been discussed now, I really do believe we need legal advice.
You know, I mean,
I'm sure there's a way to deal with this, but I think we need legal advice.
I'm not sure if there's any way to get this off of dead center. If in fact it's an at-will employee as suggested. For the life of me, I can't understand why it couldn't be done at the next meeting. If there is a complaint that's been lodged, that should be investigated to determine if in fact there is one, and I don't know if there is. I knew nothing about
I
this
don't know if
resolution.
I don't know if a complaint's been
I
lodged,
know that there is.
because we're not privy to these complaints. That is committee that handles it within the town, so we don't know what the investigation is, we don't know anything.
Or if it was a
It's the
formal
same-
complaint that's actually stamped
So
in on
we
a
don't know,
certain
the
date.
same way when
I don't know.
Councilwoman Giglio made a complaint against, Supervisor,
Trying to have me arrested.
nobody knew about it.
We're getting off topic.
No, but nobody
Again,
knew about it. She
I
wants to know
think-
why I knew about this. Nobody knew about it because we are not involved in the
Supervisor
investigation.
just said we dug
That's
our own
right.
grave, so I guess we've dug our own grave, and the discussion is ongoing, or can we call this to a vote?
Why don't we table it so we can get legal advice?
It was already no to table.
So
We wanna
I'm
move the vote.
asking, why
Well,
don't
we
we
had
table it again?
We want to move the vote.
I think we're not going anywhere if we're going to continue with discussion. I mean, it's got to be called to a vote. The question was asked to me before by Councilman Gabrielson. How does I guess the question was, how does the conduct of the hearings occur? We've never adopted formal rules as to how the town board operates. Robert's rules or the rules that are in effect to this point in time are those that control. As a supervisor did note, he is the chairman and in control of the conduct of the board until such time as he cedes that seat to someone else to control the manner in which the board meeting is held. We seem to be in a very odd situation, which, again, I think could be resolved. I think the idea of tabling it and addressing it in executive session and bringing the vote up if in fact it's an at-will employee and there is nothing seems to be the most logical and sensible and most logical for the purposes of not only a vote but also to ensure that there's not a problem that can cause a suit down the road. But again, that seems to be a reasonable and prudent approach and one that I would recommend to the board. But again, being confronted with this at the 11th hour and having people here starting to lose their patience.
Bob, you said she was an at-will employee.
I believe that's the
board
case.
Is moving, the majority of the board is moving in a different direction. She is not a contracted employee. They are not a union employee. They are at will. So if the majority of the board feels that their services were appreciated but no longer needed, then the town board could at any time terminate that employment.
You keep saying that and I keep agreeing with you. There's no problem with that.
Okay, so
that's the
full
truth.
vote.
I just think having secret meetings among yourselves without telling the other town board members, I think it's rude. I think it's not professional. And I think that you have to look and say to yourself, what am I doing? And I just hope that everybody out there, if this passes, everybody does not fire employees like we're doing today. So you have to think, if you were in her position, would you want to be fired like this? With no speaking to or no, everybody gives everybody goes to the personnel director and you speak to them and you tell them and she tells you what's happening, and so you get a little clue of what's happening so you can prepare yourself. But I think that the way this town board is doing it, I think you really have to think, do you want to be fired like this by these people, and take a hard look in what happens.
Rex wants to be fired.
Fired.
Listen, here, your town attorney has said that he sees no reason not to have this table so that we can sort it out, so he can determine whether it's an at-will employee, whether there's any ongoing investigation happening that you may not be a part of because one of you may be getting investigated. I don't know. It seems prudent to do that, and that's what your attorney is recommending to you.
The fundamental thing I was told in law school is don't render advice from the curbside because you don't know all the facts and circumstances. Clearly, I do not know all the facts and circumstances here.
I don't either.
I was not asked to determine the status of the employee. While I have reason to believe that you're absolutely correct, it is an at-will employee, and I'm not sure if you spoke to someone else legal-wise to determine whether there's any other provision that may complicate that. So I am unable to give you a thoroughly researched and detailed legal opinion.
But if what you're saying is correct, and I'm hearing from Councilwoman Dunleavy that if it's done in the procedures and methodology that it's typically done with, he would cede the will of the board and allow it to move forward. But we're unable to get past this will of wars between the board members, which doesn't seem to benefit anybody at this point in time. So
I agree with Councilman Dunleavy as well. The problem here is that this was handled probably this is the worst example of the Riverhead Town Board in the 10 years that I've been with and following the town. This right here, I don't think in my 10-year history here I've ever seen anything, 12-year history, anything worse than this. And all I'm asking is to take a timeout, table the resolution, sort this out. Maybe we can stipulate it out with Linda so that everybody is covered, so that we don't have to worry. But to do this in this fashion, to me, especially when we don't know all the facts, I don't know all the facts and circumstances, John doesn't know all the facts and circumstances, we want to find out the facts and circumstances.
I think it's unprofessional.
This is being handled, and I'm trying to, I don't want to look like I'm being a kindergartner here. I'm just saying, take a time out. Let's look at this, and let's determine what the appropriate. Obviously, Linda Hulse is going to lose her job.
Regardless.
But it has to be done in a way that protects the town. And
you know what? If she knows that she's going to be terminated, because you just said it's inevitable that she's going to be terminated, how do we know that her next actions over the next few weeks, before the next town boarding, before she's terminated, don't affect the taxpayers of this town and the liability of the taxpayers of this town? As of right now, we have no filed complaints, no complaints that we know about. John and you seem to be the only ones that know about a complaint. So the rest of the town board was left out of the process, and I feel very comfortable with calling the vote this evening and moving forward. Moving forward in a different direction. This is a confidential employee. This is an employee that all the board members have to feel comfortable with and trust. And as long as that's intact, everything's fine. The board is moving in a different direction.
If we're doing this to hire a family member to take her spot, that's shameful. That's where I'm going. If it is, I don't know if it is. If it is, it's shameful.
What's under consideration? That you're hiring a family member?
No, that who we would replace her with.
You're hiring
that
a
would
family
be under
member?
consideration.
I don't know
What are you talking
You
about?
said it was under consideration.
No,
You're
No,
hiring a family
the
member.
who
position.
would we replace her with?
That's not even, that's
will
not
be
here.
under consideration.
There's different names, but that's
Well,
not
what
even here.
names are there?
That's not, this isn't discussion now.
It's not
I
the
think.
It's a discussion.
I-
We should
I
have this in
think-
executive session.
Can I
It
discuss?
is for a discussion.
To me, this employee is a confidential issue, and a trust issue. Otherwise, this board can't even work tomorrow correctly. And I think this isn't no particular incident. This, I just been observing, and I'm not saying I was in the loop or whoever was, I could see going back, I'm easily saying 6, 8 months ago, where some of the board members lost that confidential trust, for whatever reason. So to move forward, and you get 2 or 3 board members, you can't operate properly, because if you have the trust, no matter what you do moving forward, it's just not there, and it's no incident. I think it's accumulation of things that I've even watched, trying to be objective. It goes back 6, 8 months. And I've spoken.
I'm not arguing with you.
know this,
I'm
John. I've
agreeing
spoken
with you.
And why should 1 or 2 of us, it's not in your office, so just say in our little circle, say the 4 of us, you vote, we understand that, but say of the 4, if it was only 2, it was only 3, that, it can't be. Not when you have a confidential employee that you're losing whatever.
No,
You
but
know what I'm saying? And you agree with the
I'm
incident.
not arguing the point. If you want to let her go, that's perfectly
Right, it's not an
okay.
incident, what I'm saying.
That's
So-
a three board member vote. That's perfectly, I'm not arguing that point.
Right.
And this could have been thought about 6 months ago. My point is, let's do it professionally. And
Well,
let's
this
have a
there is no
discussion
professional.
where we
Yes, no,
have
there is
discussion
professional.
all the time
No, there
in
is
executive session. And then let's have a vote instead of having this discussion out in the open.
It's all out on
That's
the table.
all I'm here. Let's
There's
do it
nothing more
professionally.
that
That's
could
all.
possibly be discussed in
Table the
executive session.
resolution
No,
so I can sit down and speak to Linda Hulse like a human being. George, I don't know how you conduct your business, but I would never do this to an employee.
We haven't had a
Would
vote yet.
never do this
If
to
you
a
had an
fire an employee
employee
like this without
that you
having
did not
Let's
some
not
trust.
pass the
You
guilt.
had an employee
This
that
can't
you did
move,
not
this
trust
environment
had
is
access.
not, it's hostile, it's gotta be friendly, and it can't move forward. I can't
Absolutely, it
waste
is
a
very
day.
hostile.
No, the environment over there, it can't go another day, another week.
The environment
because
right
you're
here
shutting
is
them
very
down.
hostile.
Well, of course it's gonna be hostile. How many hostile, we've had a lot of hostile things come off the floor from this one, this one, this one, pulled it off.
Never took anything off the floor as controversial as this, and never did we once do anything that wasn't done on a personnel matter or executive session. Never, not once.
No, we
And
have
there's
never.
nothing that's ever come off the floor that all 5 board members didn't know about ahead of the meeting. I don't think there has been. We've
No,
always
there hasn't.
just passed it out before the meeting.
That's right.
I mean,
Put up the first
you
one.
guys, the Republic, I mean, you know, for what it's worth, we're all Republicans, but that's irrelevant because,
That's it.
you know, all we're asking, table the resolution so we can sort the facts out to make sure the town
It doesn't-
taxpayers protected.
At this point, for confidential, it's obviously clear it's not working.
But
They
why
can't go, there's
can't
nothing to
you
work out. This goes back
table
6, 8, I've
the
observed
resolution?
things for other people. Because
Why-
you
why you
voted
don't
not
do
to
the
table it. We voted not to table, that's
Why
why.
can't we
There's
table
no-
the
You got-
resolution?
We
you
already
got a
voted
resolution,
to table,
not-
and there's 3 people that don't want to table the resolution. They want to vote on
So
it tonight.
we could, right.
And my opinion is that the town attorney has said it's the best thing to do is to table this resolution, sort through the facts, and try to come out with some sort of reasonable conclusion. I didn't cause this, guys. I'm just looking at it, maybe I should take my attorney's hat off. I'm just looking at it, oh, I caused it?
I didn't say you caused it.
I'm just looking at it from an attorney's standpoint. To protect the taxpayers, you need to sort the facts out. And the facts have not been sorted out because I apparently know things you don't know. John knows things that I don't know and you don't know. And all Bob is saying, let's table the
That's
resolution.
irrelevant, really.
It's an
Let's-
at-will employee.
Yeah, but
At
you're
will,
not
what does that
protecting
mean?
the
At will.
taxpayer.
The only facts-
You're going to get sued. There
What,
are
at-
ways
at will.
to protect the
It's an at-will
taxpayer.
employee.
But you're not protecting the taxpayer against.
But we
the
could have
lawsuit.
saved a half hour by just having
You
this
don't
in
think that
executive
you're getting
session
sued?
and just coming out here and voting on this. I don't understand why it wasn't done that way.
As long as you don't,
Instead of wasting a half hour in this discussion that we're having now.
just do it.
So we'll do the vote and see where it falls.
You know. I know how it's gonna fall, but I'm just saying it's not professional.
As long as you're not
And
sitting
in the
there
courtesy
waiting
that you're
all
not giving the rest of the town board members, that's all I'm saying.
Who wrote this resolution?
I wouldn't go into
Probably came from the attorney's
Who wrote
office.
the resolution?
Can't tell you, it's top secret.
I think
Top
it's
secret.
I know, how could it be top secret? Who wrote the resolution?
Top secret.
Was it done by an attorney?
Yeah, it had to be done by an attorney.
Well, that's what I'm trying to find out. My staff is
Nobody
asking,
will,
who
nobody
wrote
will
the
tell,
resolution?
somebody on the staff had to do it.
I fear for retaliation of that employee if we tell you who drafted the resolution.
See, everything's just big secret. I don't understand this. I really don't understand it. We're out for discussion now. We might as well have a discussion.
Who wrote the resolution? Man, it's like a shadow government
That's right.
going on here.
That's
It really
it.
is. They're
Right.
discussing.
Pretty obvious now.
They're discussing.
I don't think it's a secret
I mean,
anywhere.
Denise Simonetti brought it up. You're having secret discussions about the budget.
Yeah,
It's like the
yeah,
whole
yeah.
shadow.
That's
shadow
it.
town government
Just
going
had-
on there.
Discussions about the budget.
Huh?
Well, you don't have to quote me on that. But I mean, who wrote the resolution? Do we even have any confidence that this resolution is
No.
done properly? Any?
Yes.
One of the town attorneys, so there we go.
Came out of town.
To just move.
Came
item
out of your
four.
office.
Bob,
One other
one of
thing I
your
wanted to
attorneys
say.
wrote this resolution?
It serves as an at-will.
Did you know?
Can I?
I don't want to respond on the record.
So
This is
one
an-
of your attorneys wrote
Say,
this
you don't respond on the record.
This was gonna get sued.
Yeah,
See?
exactly.
Well, this should have been an executive session. I agree. This should have been an executive
I just
session.
want to repeat something again.
We're bantering
George,
back and forth
Can you
here.
please, if Councilman Gabrielson will please read the resolution while we're discussing?
Oh, you want to read
Why, you
Oh.
haven't even read it?
No,
No,
we read
they
it.
it?
haven't.
Wants to
yeah.
read it
We'll
again?
read it into the record.
What
so
do you
that
read it
everybody-
Okay, let me
Into the
just
record?
read. You want to read?
No, I don't wanna
Do
read
they
it.
want to
No,
hear
we
what it
don't
says?
read record. We don't
Okay,
read.
you don't wanna read it now.
We don't read it. into
But what
the
I'm
record.
saying is, we all got to get it clear. It's an at-will employee and serves at the pleasure of the town board.
We understand
makes
that.
it clear,
There's no
right?
problem with
So that's
that.
why we want to move the vote tonight.
And all I'm asking is have the common decency, I mean, this woman's,
You
She's
think
the
she's gonna
president
wanna
of
come back to
Rotary.
work tomorrow,
The
knowing
woman
that
is a
there's, that
respected
3 of the
business
people,
leader in the
you think
community.
that she's gonna wanna come back to work tomorrow
No.
for the next 2 weeks, knowing that 3 board
No, I
members that
think what
she
she's
works
gonna-
for are not happy and wanna move in a different
gotta be
direction?
happy.
No.
Do you think that
I
she's
think
gonna
that it's
wanna come back to work?
appropriate to sit down and try to resolve this issue in some sort of agreement with her
I wanna
and
pull
the
it to a
board.
vote.
And, this is a respected member of this community. I cannot believe the way you're dealing with this.
I would
All I
like to.
wanna do is table it so that we can sit down and
That's
talk to
all.
her
We already
and
voted
try
no
to
to
resolve
table.
it.
We already
Resolve
voted
it.
no to table.
Have
I
the
would like to
courtesy
pull
to
the vote.
talk to her
I'd
And-
like
first,
to have a
that's all.
discussion
I
as
would
to
like to pull the
executive
vote,
session.
and we have the town attorney telling us that we have to
Wait till-
discuss it
Now Jimmy
before
says
we
it's
can pull the
politics. I
vote.
don't
just
understand
want to
that.
discuss
That's what he
it.
says, it's politics. He talks under his breath all the time. He says it's politics. Speak
We're
up
all
into that
Republicans, and so
microphone.
is Linda. How is this politics?
Bob, how do we move the vote?
Somebody,
We're still having discussion.
if the supervisor would call the vote.
I'm not calling the vote.
So you're telling us
I
that
think
we
that he
can't
controls-
adopt a resolution without the supervisor pulling the vote?
I think that,
So everything he
we're having
disagrees
discussion.
with, we've disagreed with things, he'll just never call votes.
Bob,
Come on, that's silly.
Bob, is that what you just said?
Listen, the answer is, I was anticipating this, I had a chance to, the supervisor controls the conduct of the meeting. I guess you can call a vote,
We need
have
a
a
resol-
second,
I
and
think
then
you
we're gonna
need-
have a question as to whether it was a legal vote, so.
Now-
If we wanna have
All
it as
right.
a questionable
You didn't
vote,
know-
let's
you're
move
the- you're
forward.
our town attorney.
We're not going anywhere.
This came out of your
Move
office,
forward.
and you
So,
did not,
If you wanna call it, over the objection of the supervisor,
What
the
I
supervisor
wanna
I know
do.
is gonna ask us whether it's a legal vote, and the
I'm
vote
gonna
will
ask,
have.
I'm gonna
the
ask
vote
the
will
town
be with
attorney a
floor.
question. You're the town attorney, you're in charge of your office, and you did not know this came out of your office.
I really don't think it's appropriate to do that.
No, we're supposed to have this discussion in executive session, I agree with you.
First and foremost, I don't know if it was drafted by anyone in my office. It's been conjecture, speculation that it was. If it was, then the answer is no, I did not know about it. Again, this is not getting us anywhere.
So we'll
At
have-
this point, we either need to move forward, or we're gonna be here all night, which is.
And I agree with you, this is not a discussion
So
we
if-
had
if-
here.
if-
It should have been done in executive session, I
If the
agree
board-
with you.
If the board wants to move it.
But it
or
wasn't, and
objection,
it's brought up here, so we're having a discussion here.
Again, this is, I was asked, can we move it forward? Supervisor controls the conduct of the meetings.
And I'm asking for
And-
executive session or table the resolution until we can get legal advice in executive session.
And we're
And I
going,
second that.
we're going nowhere.
And I second that.
That's been moved and seconded.
I mean, we gotta discuss this, we just gotta, I don't understand what we're doing here.
Just table it, and I
Yeah.
will sit down.
We voted no to table it.
Well, you can
Okay.
vote again.
Well, I don't wanna vote
There was-
again. We
there was-
did that, let's
there was a
vote on the
vote
issue
not
and
to
see where the
table.
chips
I
fall.
don't-
If we're liable, we're liable. If it's illegal, it's illegal, but let's
But
move.
you're not
let's-
protecting the taxpayers. That is.
Oh, please, sure,
that-
sure.
Rex, this is
that
worse than your
is
meeting.
the
Sure.
single-
There is things that you.
You don't have these discussions. You don't have these discussions.
I'm gonna bring up the whole.
You don't have them.
Please,
You're
don't
not
George me.
protecting the
That's it.
taxpayers.
You're
If
not either
there's
with
a
some of your actions.
lawsuit-
I thought
Not
this
your
was
other
gonna be a
places.
fast meeting.
There's a lawsuit here,
Right.
you are not protecting
I
the
don't- I
taxpayers,
don't-
and there's a mechanism
I
to
don't
protect the
act
taxpayers.
over out of fear. We can say that with every resolution. I mean, you've got something, well, I don't wanna go there, but.
What, Councilwoman Giglio?
No,
I got something,
No,
what do I
talk,
have?
I mean, talk, let the separate people you want to lay off that, but have the same thing. Could sue, and
But
they will
there's
sue,
difference
but I'm just saying.
between laying somebody off for financial reasons and firing them. That's a different
But I
thing.
think somewhere in the last couple of things that Bob had said that we can move forward on.
And this is an
And there
hour
could be
employee
questions.
that serves at the pleasure of
That's
the
something
town
we
board,
can-
and
we
this
can
is
vote.
not,
Bob has made that clear. It's
All
not
I'm
legal,
asking
it's not
is
legal.
that we
not
go
pleasurable.
move to executive session or table it so we can sort out all
Oh
of
my
the
goodness, I'm
issues
done.
associated with this. It's not, I'm fairly certain, Jody, you're right, that Linda's not gonna return to work tomorrow, but at least we
Oh,
can sit
no.
down and try to sort this out and come up to some sort of stipulated settlement. Because to pull this off the floor like this, to blindside two board members like this, it's irresponsible from a legal standpoint. Absolutely irresponsible.
actually, I think John knew it was coming.
I'm
No,
sure
I did not know
that
this was
there
coming.
is- Well, I'm 20% of the board and I didn't know.
I
Yeah,
didn't
but you
know.
know what, when we
And-
went to hire her, you said, she's not gonna be working for me, she serves at the pleasure of the town board, I have my staff, you guys hire who you want. I don't care, I'll vote along with you, and we did the same thing with your office
And
staff.
I
So-
agree with you.
But we discussed it in
But we have
executive
to have,
session.
we have to have
Every
discussion.
one of these we discussed in
And-
executive
and we
session.
had-
Did not.
we had to do
No,
it
we
properly
did
and
not.
professionally.
Yes, of course.
No, we did not. Did we,
Excellent.
George?
We discussed it in caucus because it was
Oh, now it's
before I was
caucus.
hired, before I was
I mean,
in
I
town
agree.
hall.
I agree with 100% what you're saying, but we should do this professionally and let all the board members have their discussion. That's all. That's all I'm saying, is be professional about this.
I think there's,
Not-
I think
not
there's
cowardly.
3 members of the board that want to move the vote forward. So how do we do that, Bob? Just call it?
Well, our procedure is the supervisor is in control, but the H&M resolution is offered by a council person, seconded by a council person, so I would say that our procedure allows you to move forward if the discussion's over. I don't know if we have a filibuster. I don't know if we have a filibuster.
Can you filibuster?
You know, we've
Why
never
can't
had
you?
one.
Why can't we filibuster? I don't know, is there any reason we can't filibuster?
I don't think it's benefiting anybody at this point.
I think it does, Jim, because you're setting us up for a lawsuit,
Well,
and
I think
I
you're wrong.
think
I
that
think
we
you're
can
wrong.
settle.
You're
this
wrong.
thing.
I think you're wrong. I think,
At the will thing.
I think,
It's a will.
I think
Without
this,
pleasure.
this open discussion and dialogue is probably not productive. I think that might be conducive to maybe some sort of allegations of lawsuit, but the vote, one by itself, is not.
No, but shouldn't we have had this
In and by
discussion?
itself is not.
Shouldn't we have
Absolutely
had-
legal,
right.
absolutely fine.
Shouldn't we have this
This
discussion?
discussion
in
may
executive-
create
yeah,
some
but
avenue.
shouldn't
That
we-
might
I
be,
didn't
that might be
create
the end of
the
the
discussion.
discussion, I don't know.
But shouldn't
I
we
didn't
have this in
create the
executive
discussion.
session?
You asked for discussion.
I asked for
That's all I'm
discussion to
asking
go
you.
into executive session
Maybe
because
four
this
of us.
is inappropriate to be dealing with
Yeah,
this.
we should have.
Maybe the four of us.
And all the answers, all our answers would have been answered,
We're past that point.
right? Instead of bringing this up
We
in
have 3
open
board
session,
members who
that's all
don't
I'm
wanna,
saying.
we have 3 board members who don't even wanna consider tabling it or even going into executive
I
session.
don't understand
Do
why
you
we don't
wanna,
table it.
George, do you think that we should break and go into executive session for 5 minutes and then come back out and call the
Agree to
vote?
have the vote after
5
5
minutes, it's gonna be longer than 5 minutes.
I think it's gonna be longer than 5 minutes.
And it'll go on, they won't come back with a vote, so I don't. So
I-
if there's no desire to do that, we've already had a motion to
What-
table on.
what does it hurt?
So the board acts.
What does it hurt? Answer, nobody's giving me an answer. If Linda, she knows she's not gonna work here anymore. That's obvious. You've made
I
that
don't know, does
clear.
she know? Up until, did she know
Yes,
before
because I had
now?
my staff bring the resolution to her because
Oh,
I think
okay.
it's insane the way
Okay.
this was done.
Okay.
So what does it hurt if we table this resolution, I go to Linda's house tomorrow, because I doubt she's coming to town hall, and I sit and talk to her like a human being and try to sort this thing out and come up with a humane settlement of it and bring it back to the board and settle it? What does that hurt?
Well, you can still do that
No, you
after
can't.
we adopt the
No,
resolution.
you
at
can't,
the
because
will.
it's
Go and console
November
her.
7th.
Yes.
I'm not talking about consoling her. I'm
She's-
talking
there's
about
nothing to work
consulting
out.
with
Consulting.
So
her
that
and
will employ that
try to
resolution.
work out some sort of resolution. That's the humane way to do
It's
this.
an at-will employee. We have had the employee for a year
Pleasure.
at the pleasure of the board.
I'm part
The
of that
board
board.
is moving in a different direction, and
and this
there
is-
are the majority of the board that would like to see this resolution
Well, I don't, you know,
adopted today.
Here's what you're talking about. The board is moving in a different direction. I don't know about what we're moving in. What different direction are we moving in?
Yeah, and I'm
What
part of
We're
this.
different
moving
direction?
into
I don't
having
know.
a confidentially employee that you can trust. That's what an at-will confidential employee is.
So you're
It's
saying you
somebody
don't trust her?
that you can
Oh, I don't
work with
think
and
she does.
that
Going to
you
the
can
papers?
trust.
I don't.
Oh, wait a
no,
minute,
I-
let me ask you.
confidential.
John
Well, she-
Donnelly
I can't
we
speak
trust,
for
sir.
She just said
You
that
can't
you
have
can
one
trust.
person that, you're not gonna have one person, if you guys are moving in a different direction, and John Dunleavy and I are moving in a different direction,
We're
you
going
can't
different
have one
directions.
person.
Well, I think the board is trying, I don't think there's a
understand.
positive environment right now. I think we all, you've seen things going on. I don't want to go into no details.
Well, you
So I
have
think the
to
board-
because we're
the
letting an
board is
employee
looking
go.
to create a
And
more
I want my
positive
questions
that
answered.
All the board members, they don't feel comfortable. There's 3
Well,
of
we
them,
should have
so they don't
discussed
feel
it this in
comfortable.
executive session.
So what you're gonna do is hire a town board coordinator that the three of you control to the
Well,
exclusion
it's
of
gonna
John.
be discussed.
Absolutely not. John, of course, would be
John-
brought into those
John doesn't have a
discussions
problem, I don't
and
think, with Linda.
would determine who the new town board coordinator is. Absolutely.
But John doesn't have a problem. Hire another town board coordinator for yourself and leave Linda
My,
also.
my, my,
add to the
my
budget.
point, my point is you're saying we're moving in a different direction. I don't know what direction that we're moving, to change. That's my question. What direction are we moving in to change.
And we're not part of that direction.
And we're
I-
not,
I would like
and we
to-
must not be part, like, I just don't know it.
You
I don't know
can't
what it
have
is.
2 or 3 board members very uncomfortable with a coordinator. You can't have it. And it's nothing that was going on.
Okay, so we're not moving in a different direction. All we want to do is fire one coordinator and hire another one. That's basically what we're doing. We're not moving in any other direction
Yeah, we
because
are.
we're governing the town of
I
Riverhead.
think more positive.
That's the direction
No,
we are.
three
We're
are.
governing the town of
More
Riverhead.
positive environment, I think.
What?
I think it'll be much easier for some of the board members. They feel it's more positive.
What about John Dunleavy? He likes.
Well, we look
the
at
whole
everything's
system.
majority. Well,
I
you
don't
can't
know.
have, you have an executive board wherever you go, you can't have 3 guys total disgruntled, I'm not saying disgruntled, and one saying, yeah, that doesn't work in the real world.
But if we were
And
having,
they have that right, I respect.
but if we were having an executive session, you could tell me why you're disgruntled. I don't know why you're disgruntled.
It's a matter of a confidential employee and a trust with a confidential employee. That's what a confidential employee is.
John has that trust.
Okay,
with
well,
that employee.
First of all,
three of
confidential
us
employee
don't.
is
So
one
hire
that
your
doesn't
own
go
employee,
around
you can hire your
telling
No,
people.
so now you
Has she
wanna
gone
add to the
around
budget,
telling
Sean?
people things? I
But
don't
you
know.
gotta, like I look at, trying to be objective, maybe you think she's the best, maybe I do, maybe
No,
you don't.
a 3-2
But-
vote, you can
but
fire
you
her.
have
I'm
a
just saying,
majority
I
of the
want my
board.
questions
You
answered.
really gotta respect their position.
I do
You have
respect
to
it
If
if,
they can't work comfortable, I mean, you've gotta respect that.
but you're,
Whether it's 1, 2, or 3. I think at some point, it's not.
but
The
you're
majority
saying,
of the
wait,
board wants to adopt this resolution.
but you're saying she's
and
not
it
a
is
confidential
ridiculous that we
employee.
are
What
that we have to
information has
carry
she
on
given
like
out
this.
confidence
Well,
that
I
you're
don't think
against? I don't understand.
confidential, it's,
I don't understand.
You're setting me up for a lawsuit. I ain't letting
I would,
I ain't letting you.
it's obvious that my recommendation.
Well, this
I'm not
should have
putting
been,
anything out there on
this
record.
should have been in executive session. That's what I'm
We're-
saying.
We're past that point, we
I don't even
we
need
know
it.
it.
I don't need a
I think there's certain
So,
people who
and
feel.
with an agreement, so we
We're
can
not-
treat the employee
Well,
with the respect she deserves.
We've had a vote to table. I don't know if the board wants to consider another vote to table. I don't know what that accomplishes. I don't see us going anywhere unless one side or the other side is willing to concede something here. And if we're gonna be like this for the rest of the night, this is, I think, crazy. I don't know how else to paraphrase it. I can't even fathom.
Can a
where we
town
are.
board member call
I
a
think,
vote?
I think at this point, we could move it. Again, I know where it's gonna go.
I'm
We're gonna be
gonna
asked
ask
to
for a
research
legal
it.
opinion
We're
to
gonna
see
ask for a
whether it's
legal
a
research,
table vote.
so I guess the answer is you can move it, you can second it, have the vote, and then we'll have a question as to whether
And
it's a
I'm
legal
still
vote.
in
Right.
discussion,
He
so
just
I
gave us
object to
a-
the vote. I'm still in discussion on this.
Okay, so
and
discuss.
I'm not, want to table the resolution. I haven't heard a real reason.
Okay,
If
but-
the town board coordinator, she's not coming back. I'm sure she is not showing up tomorrow. So if the town board coordinator is not coming back, what does it hurt if I go and sit, talk to her like a human being, and sort this out in some sort of stipulation of settlement? What does that hurt? It hurts your egos because you want this done right now.
No, it has nothing to do with that, Sean. What are you offering our secretary? That you're gonna go and you're gonna offer our secretary?
It is,
And
excuse me.
for a stipulation of
You
settlement?
keep forgetting, and I don't know why, there are 5 board members. I'm 20% of this
She's
decision.
paid out of the town board
You
budget.
have made it clear, you have made it clear you would stay out of our council position.
And so-
Meddling. You have made that clear, so I don't
And
know why
if you
you're
brought this in
changing
for
your
one of
thing.
my staff members, you could have done the same thing. So
I
she
do
works
have
for
your, I
me.
do have your staff,
Just-
do things for me because I don't go to mine, so.
Yeah,
That's how it is.
You can't have, you gotta respect Jim and his feelings, I respect John, I respect
You're
Paul.
not respecting John's feelings.
But you gotta look at the majority. Why should one sit there and be uncomfortable?
Why should
Because that's
John,
his business. Why should 2, 3, 4, I mean,
why
majority
should
wants to
John,
make the change. Majority
why
makes the
should
change.
John feel uncomfortable potentially with your new hire?
Well, we don't know, John's gonna be part of that, whatever, but I'm just saying at this point, without getting there.
Well, I assume I'm
I
not.
think-
Probably you 3 people know who you're gonna hire,
No.
and you guys are gonna hire them. So I mean, that's beside the point. Or
All I
her.
wanna know is, what does it hurt, besides a bruised ego,
It's nothing to do
to
with that, you
move
bruise
this,
it. We can't.
to table this so that we can
We've already
address
voted
it?
no
That's
to
the table,
table.
so why do you keep going back to
Well,
that?
what is,
It's voted
You
no
keep
to
saying
table.
the same thing over and over again, Sean. It's not
You're
really
That
discussion.
discussion's done.
it's
Table.
absolutely discussion, because the town
No, it
attorney
sounds like
has
you're-
recommended that we table it, so he can.
No,
He
the
said
town
we could
attorney-
take a vote,
the town
and if it's
attorney-
legal, not legal, that's another story.
And
He
the
said
town
we could take a
attorney,
vote.
in his opinion, is an at-will employee that serves at the
No,
pleasure of the
that-
board.
You are twisting his words.
I said, I haven't, once again, let me rephrase what I said, just to be clear. Professor Siegel, in his infinite wisdom, always said, don't render advice when you don't know all the facts or circumstances. And that's clearly where I am right now, because I can't, with any semblance of reality, say that I have a full handle on all the facts and circumstances.
And I agree with you.
Because I was never consulted, I was never asked, I was never brought into a room and said, what do you think? What can we do, what can't we do? On its face, if she's an at-will employee, I concur. She serves at the will of the town board, and you can vote to terminate her, fire her, dispense with her, ask her to leave, show her the door, whatever you want to call it. So you can do that. I don't know if there's any caveats or twists. I have heard about the potential for her being a whistleblower.
I haven't heard.
I don't know
I've
if
never
that's
heard that
true.
before either.
I don't know if it's true or not, again. because
Well,
I
I've
was
never
not-
heard that, and that's
because
not
I
the
was
reason
not-
for
But
my
that's
vote.
immaterial to me.
I know, but it's been brought up. Again, the question is, what do you think, Mr. Town Attorney? The answer is, I don't know.
What would
All I
be
can
the
say at
most
this point in
prudent
time,
course?
well, the most prudent course I've already stated in my position, not knowing all the facts and circumstances, not having been consulted. If in fact it's an at-will, what harm would there be to get it out for 2 weeks? I don't think there's gonna be any movement. So, that being said,
That's all we're asking.
let the board vote and
Table
deal
it
with
for
it.
2
Just
weeks.
let the board
We're
vote.
not
You have the right
tabling
to
it.
vote, so we're gonna vote.
because the wills here are not giving in on either
No,
side.
they're not. And, you know, I want to call the vote, so.
And I would like to table it so that we can.
We vote
We
no
already-
on your
all the
table. Your
facts.
motion is done, so is Councilwoman
My
Giglio
motion
making a
can
motion?
come back and can make another motion.
Well, she
I
made-
make
she
a
made
motion,
session.
I make a motion, we
Well,
adopt
we're having
resolution number
discussion
870,
right now.
terminates
We're
employee
having
from position of
discussion
town
right
board
now.
coordinator,
I'm
so
trying to
moved.
Get
And
a
seconded.
legal opinion and go into executive
And
session.
seconded. You made it clear we
So
could do the vote. And
we
seconded.
are,
Moved and
Moved
seconded.
and seconded.
for a legal
Diane, please call the
opinion.
vote.
We are looking for a legal opinion as to what we should do and to go into
Please call the vote,
executive
Diane.
session. Jody, you don't control the meeting.
You know what,
The
Sean,
one thing
you're
that the
gonna
town
look into that
We made a
as to
motion.
whether or not
Did she
the
call
town
the vote?
board, when the supervisor is disgruntled and doesn't want to adopt the
The
resolution, but the
supervisor is
majority of the
not
board
disgruntled.
does, then
Jody,
we
the
should be able to
supervisor is-
adopt.
Yeah, you made the motion to call the
I
vote.
am
Now the
not
question is,
disgruntled,
can we
Jody.
call the vote?
What I'm doing is saying, follow the roll call vote. Follow the
Okay, so
advice
stop.
of your town attorney, which is table it for 2 weeks,
Made the
figure
motion.
out all the facts,
And
and
have a
see what
discussion.
happens, have a discussion. That's all his advice is, from a legal standpoint. If I had a client here, I would probably say the same thing, you don't know all the facts. I don't know the facts, Councilman Dunleavy doesn't know the facts. You may not know all the facts, and that is why you discuss these things in executive session. You don't spring a resolution off the floor that only 3 people know about. That's why we do things in
Your
an
facts,
ordered way.
your facts may make me vote
And you seconded it.
Well,
yes for this,
that's-
affirmative for this.
I think
I don't
that-
know the facts. I really don't know.
I think that's really the rub, Bob, is that 3 people knew and 2 didn't. It's, the facts are, we don't need facts, it's not will employee.
So
Majority
I
of our
think
life-
Bob's
it is.
ready to give
We
his
don't,
opinion on our
we don't
vote.
need facts.
Maybe
We
it-
just
maybe it
have.
is.
You made the
it's
motion.
not will employee.
Maybe it
all
is,
that,
maybe
all that's
it's not.
been stated.
This is
and
what,
it's
trying to throw
rehashing.
conjecture out there
It
and,
is.
and.
There's no
and all that stuff
discussion.
Is what really
What
creates.
discussion? I'm still having discussion.
There's no productive discussion as far as I'm
Right,
concerned. It's the
because-
same thing being said over and
All
over
I'm-
again.
All I'm
There's a
trying to do is
definition for that,
protect the
isn't it?
taxpayers.
That's all I'm asking. We're moving
And
the
I'm
vote.
asking
Me
to
too.
protect the taxpayers from a lawsuit and try to stipulate this thing in a way
And chips
that
away
is
the way they
humane to Linda Hulse. I'm stunned. I wouldn't treat my enemy this way. I really wouldn't.
Well, you said you'd
Get
get
some
rid of
response.
me in a minute if you could.
I want to, I want to treat
I'll
the
get started
taxpayers,
on that next year during the
but I
election.
Yeah, I
also
know,
want
you've
to do
said that
this
too.
proper. That's
true.
That's all I
The
want to do.
motion on the floor
All
right
we
now
wanna
is a
do
vote.
is-
And a
If you all
second.
talk at once, there's an inability to, I think, first and foremost, If there's a motion, there's a second. Either supervisor can recognize that
I'm not
motion.
recognizing the motion because I'm looking for a motion to table the resolution.
Can I recognize the second?
To move it into executive
Moved in
session.
second.
But I think under Robert's rules, there's been a motion made and a second, Mr. Supervisor.
Yeah, I think under
I
town,
know we don't follow Robert's
I,
rules.
I
Town
think,
boards
no,
don't
but I think
follow
under
rules.
town
Then we
law,
have no rules, and that's obvious based upon what's going on right now.
town attorney, I think under town law,
I
it
don't mean
states the
with disrespect.
supervisor will move the motion.
I don't mean it with disrespect.
No, I know, but, it's a Quagmire, I know.
And what I'm suggesting is that one side or the other, do the right thing, check your ego, and concede, move forward.
But
That's
it's
all,
not
I'm-
all the vote.
that's all I'm suggesting at this point. It's not illegal advice, it's practical advice. We're probably past the point where we can check our egos now.
I personally,
Waiting for the town clerk to say.
all I'm looking to do is protect the taxpayers and sit down with Linda Holtz and discuss this.
When can we
That's
call
all
the
I'm
vote,
looking
Bob?
to do.
I think
I'm
we're
worried
either
about
past
the
that point
lawsuit.
already, or not past that point.
We
Based
made a
upon
motion and
discussion.
seconded it, so now what?
I don't know whether I'm not calling the vote.
I think town law
I-
says the supervisor
I
has to
think
call the
that
vote.
you.
That's been our practice.
Stuck.
That's been our practice.
I think you
Moved
guys
in
are
second,
stuck.
vote, please.
I think that you guys are stuck. You're doing something that is, I mean, it's, to me, it's incomprehensible that we would
Moved
do
in
this.
second, vote, please.
Especially all being from the same political party. That's clear that the Democrats are gonna be making inroads here.
Yeah, no, especially after
Can you
the
get
display
town law
today.
and look that up
On what?
on who calls the vote?
Well, the town law is clear that the town board can adopt or follow their own rules and procedures. There's no
Written,
defined
good.
process by which it happens. It's the way it always occurs. Our past practice, for as long as I can remember, has always been the same. There's a motion typically.
And it
Motion
also-
made- Motion made by everybody other than the town supervisor, a second by one of the other board members other than the town supervisor, and then the supervisor says, moved and seconded, take a vote. That's our process.
Right, and when the supervisor can't be here, it's the deputy supervisor, and,
Well, it's been
you
John.
know, it's been John.
It's been John, so a council
So, there
people-
is no policy or procedure.
There's no.
That's the
Moved and
process. I
seconded.
mean,
And we
that
don't
has been
follow
the best
town
practice.
law.
And there have been several occasions where Councilman Dunleavy has moved, it said it's been moved and seconded and has called the vote and we have voted. And that is the same thing that we're asking for in this
No, we're
instance, where a
requesting-
board
A little bit
member
different.
says,
Moved and
moved
seconded,
and
vote, please.
seconded,
So that's
take the
officially
vote.
on the record. It's
A
been
little
done.
different because I
So
asked
now,
the
I put
councilman
you on
to
the
do
spot.
that in my stead in
you on the
one
spot.
or
Moved
two
and seconded, I asked
instances
for a
in
vote.
3 years that I have
I
not
can
been
do
here.
it. It's not done. That's-
I think I missed one board meeting in 3 years.
Rex, I apologize to the audience for this discussion.
I give up. I'm at a loss with this. Truly at a loss.
He gives up. Diane, call the vote, please.
Truly at a loss.
He gives up.
Mr. Supervisor, I know that your position has been made, your statements have been made.
I'm not calling a vote. So if you choose to vote, then I'll be asking for a legal opinion as to
Okay,
whether
I'm just
it's a
gonna
legal
officially
vote.
make it moved and seconded, vote, please. And at that point, you can do what you wanna do.
I've rendered my advice on the record as to the process, so I guess I will be asked to investigate it. and
Whether
determine
it's a
whether
legal
or
vote.
not,
Okay.
So I'll
so
just-
proceed forward.
Giglio,
Yes.
Gabrielson,
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
No.
Walter.
Bob, I'd like you to
Resolution adopted.
prepare a memorandum for Councilman Dunleavy and I, if that's possible,
Well, it's
to
gonna be for the
find
board.
out whether
Yes, thank you.
this was a
Much of
legal
that.
vote taken under the circumstances.
All right, open up to the
Do
public.
you have any other resolutions you want to take off the floor that you don't want to tell anybody about?
Do you?
No, I would never do that to
Okay.
you because
Just
I
ask you as the question.
I would never do that to you because I have common decency.
What's
and
next?
some board members don't. That's why. That's the difference between you and I, George.
Well, that's your
Common
opinion,
decency.
please. Let's not go, hey,
Common
let's
decency.
not go to about character assassination, Sean,
not-
because I
we're
can
not-
let it rip.
Yeah, go ahead.
So just
Open
behave.
comment, please?
Okay.
Dominique Mendez.
I think we should get some sort of award for sitting through this whole thing. And being patient. So I'm here to completely change the subject and talk to you about a matter. It's concerning the application of Calverton Manor LLC. It's our understanding that this board is considering a possible settlement of litigation that would rescind the zoning applicable to this property associated with the adoption of the comprehensive plan. As you're aware, the comprehensive plan modified the zoning of the subject property from Business CR, Residence A, and Agricultural A to APZ and Rural Corridor. First, we believe the adoption of the comprehensive plan and the associated zoning changes which implemented its recommendations was appropriate and properly addressed many of the concerns about destruction of our community's rural character and the impacts of overdevelopment and sprawl that have afflicted much of Long Island. We further believe that any concerns associated with the adoption of the comprehensive plan have either been corrected or can easily be corrected by subsequent action of the town board. The previous administration had done so several times, and we urge you to do the same instead of settling this lawsuit. It has also come to light that the applicant's environmental consultant is a woman who represents the town in connection with other zoning matters before the town board. The representation of an applicant involved in litigation with the town while at the same time engaging as a consultant for the town represents a clear conflict of interest. As a result, we urge the town to seek to remove the applicant from representation against the town. And that would be, removing Ms. Elkowitz. Doing this will weaken their case if you move to strike her affidavit. And that's all the more reason we believe there's no imminent risk that should compel this board to settle this case. One more reason not to sign a stipulation of agreement on the Calverton Manor suit is because there is a lawsuit making similar arguments on a 179-acre parcel a few miles west on 25 in Calverton. If you agree to settle this lawsuit, then by your own actions, you will almost definitely compel this town to similarly settle that lawsuit and further subvert the zoning that was put in place as a result of the adopted comprehensive plan. I realize that this may not be an angle that this board has considered, and thus we believe it's essential that you take a serious look at the precedent you would be setting for a case that, in our opinion, is not a strong case, especially if you take the two aforementioned actions. Still, if having fully considered all we have to say today, this board still wants to move forward towards a settlement, I must make note that amendments to the town zoning shall not become effective according to town law, sections 264 and 265, it's New York State town law, until after a public hearing in relation thereto, at which the public shall have an opportunity to be heard. At least 10 days' notice of the time and place of such hearing shall be published in a paper of general circulation in such town. Thus, it's our opinion that any proposed settlement on the pending litigation that considers the amendment of the existing zoning to the property must be considered through a public hearing process as mandated by town law. Finally, it's our understanding that the draft settlement states that the agreement will immediately and automatically dissolve in the event of any secret positive declaration is issued for the execution of the settlement and or for any other aspect or component of the proposed development. It is our opinion that the town board may not enter into a contract that violates state environmental law. The proposed action is a type 1 action based upon the size of the development as well as the planned amount of clearing. The circumvention of the secret process is both unwarranted and improper. In summary, we urge the town board not to settle this litigation and not to rescind the benefits associated with the adoption of the comprehensive plan and the zoning changes tied to its recommendations. Nonetheless, if the town board decides to continue to move towards a settlement, the consideration of either the adoption of the draft stipulation and or zoning changes considered by it must be first considered through a public hearing process as mandated by New York State town law. I thought it was important to bring up these issues before you move forward any farther.
Does anybody else wish to be heard tonight?
You sent that letter too, didn't you?
No. Yeah, that'll make it easier, right?
Dominique, just so you know, secret is being done on this development as it's proposed.
Secret, Well, yeah, but
In
but you're
EAS
basically a foregone conclusion as to, you're agreeing in this and making a foregone conclusion as
Yeah,
to
but
what.
it's an environmental impact study with a supplemental F, you said, Bob?
Right. Why is that going forward now when it would violate the zoning? That's confusing
I thought that
to
the
most
judge
people.
had reverted the zoning back to what it was
No,
prior to.
of course not. No. There has been no judgment.
I don't believe there's been a judgment on
Right.
the Calverton Manor
Right.
suit.
We're asking you not to settle and not to sign a stipulation of agreement. Yeah, you might be getting confused with another one.
Yeah.
I think there was some question about possible conflict with the firm. And with respect to that issue, I'd just like to address it briefly. When the firm was retained in order VHB to do the Calverton study, one of the things they were asked to do was appear before the ethics board to vet those projects that were in the hopper, for lack of a better way of describing it. And this was one of those that was disclosed. The agreement was that any work that would be done on anything that was, again, using the word in the hopper, would be done by other people, and that there would be a Chinese wall, for lack of a better way of describing it, so that Terry Elkowitz would not have any involvement with it, so that there would be an inability for her or a purposeful distraction or attempt or process by which she would not be part and parcel of anything that involves a litigation.
Right.
She was vetted for that and determined that those projects could go forward to VHB without her involvement, without her having any role to play in them, and that she would all simultaneously work with VHB.
I guess it seems
so
like it
there
did.
so there was a vetting, if you will.
Yeah, that kind of bending over backwards to make sure that she could pursue
Well,
that
no,
case
I mean,
against
I
you.
think there was, again, a
Interesting.
process by which the VHB proposal came to the town, and there was a determination made that they were the best suited to bring that particular project forward. Then, once that VHB process was brought forward, they then disclosed to the town what projects they had ongoing. They can't take new projects. They can't work on anything additional. They can only work on that which was disclosed or was already in the wings. So that's what I understand the case to be.
Right, so
with
they're
VHB.
working on, that could be, affect the master plan, and an update to the master plan is related to EPCAL, although someone in the same firm is charging that basically the whole master plan should be thrown out. It's garbage.
It was reviewed. I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah.
wasn't, not brought forward. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Rex.
Rex Farr, President, Greater Calverton Civic Association. We are also members of the RNPC coalition. Sean, you and I have met, along with George Bartnick, on a couple of occasions. We also have met with town attorneys on the Calverton Manor project. From day one, we have highly recommended that you pursue the legal road. In all of the challenges to the master plan, no one, you or Cardinelli, those boards have never gone the full 9 yards. What we've always been concerned about in Calverton is, let's start with the extension of 58 going into Wading River. All of our objections over the last 15 years to whatever project you want to point to in Calverton, whether it was the gas station, whether it was the jitney, whether it was F1, all of our letters to Town Hall have simply said, you are setting precedents. In this case, this setting of precedents, okay, by settling, opens up that whole corridor right into Wading River. We strongly urge you to follow the legal road. Now, Sean, you have said the reason you do not want to follow that legal road is that this is going to be the last lawsuit. You told me that in January. And then furthermore, in our second meeting, you said in March that you would take on the challenge of another suit, having admitted that you thought the Manors was going to be the last of these lawsuits. Well, you're living in a non-real world if you think that if you don't stand up to any of these settlements, they're going to stop. They're not going to stop. That master plan is going to continue to be challenged. How many more suits do we have to face before someone stands up and says, okay, let's go, boys. Let's just see what we're made of. So.
Well, if the master plan had been adopted correctly, we wouldn't be here.
Well, you also said, Sean, listen, I thank you for taking the meetings. Wait a second.
Rex,
No.
I am going to sit with the staff, and I have not done it yet which is why the town board is hearing this for the first time. And I am going to be asking the staff, what is it going to take to readopt the entire master plan for the entire town and all of the zoning? How quickly can we do it? Because that's what has to be done.
That's right. You said that back in January. Here we are in November.
Rex, you know how difficult it is to subdivide the
Well,
largest...
judged upon your behavior this afternoon, my guess is it's going to take you a decade.
The largest commercial industrial subdivision in the Northeast. It's taken a little bit of time, and I've been a little distracted.
Well, like I said, based on the behavior of the board this afternoon, I can see it's going to take one hell of a long time. So what I suggest is that you at least have the guts, right, to stand up and say, no, we'll stand behind the master plan. And if that's not the case, then at least solve the problem. You said you would do that in January. Don't tell me this afternoon that this is the first time the board has heard about Calverton Manors.
No, I didn't tell you that. What I said was that I have to sit down with Jeff Murphy and determine what course of action we have to take to do the secret to readopt the master plan and all of the zoning.
This is the first time we're hearing about this.
And I haven't, because I have not.
John, I've told you this. Well, at any rate.
It's because I haven't sat down with Jeff and talked to him about it.
Well, we've had 3 meetings, 2 with you, 1 with Duffy, and now with George Bartning, myself.
When I spend all my time doing things that aren't productive, sometimes I...
You mean like this afternoon? Okay, well, the bottom line is that the Calverton Civic Association strongly urges you to continue the legal path.
I don't disagree with your analysis of getting the master plan right and defending the master plan. I don't. Our attorneys are telling us that the...
And what are your attorneys telling you about the subsequent lawsuit? I mean, the lawsuits that are coming up, the challenges.
We have to readopt the master plan and all the zoning. That's what our attorneys are telling us.
Phil Barbato, Manor Lane, Jamesport. In the interest of improving communication among the members of the town board, I'd just like to review a couple of points on this case. So I think you need it. You have no idea what it was like to sit here and watch you folks argue with one another over the silliest thing I've ever heard in my life. I'm embarrassed for the town of Riverhead. But I'd like to ask some specific questions, and I'd really like to get some specific answers. What specifically is wrong with the comprehensive plan or the zoning that the town adopted that you haven't already corrected? And why is it taking this long?
Well, I'm not getting into specifics.
I can see that you're not getting into specifics. You haven't yet. You keep saying that it is wrong and we have to re-adopt the entire thing? Who in their right mind is going to believe that?
I'm not responding to the legal difficulties with the master plan. Just
I
make
agree
your
with you.
comments, please.
I agree with you, sir. You have been totally non-responsive on this, and it's not good. What is wrong with the comprehensive plan, and what is wrong with the zoning that requires you to redo the entire thing? You realize what you're saying? The entire thing? Can't be that bad. No one's going to believe that. The town does not need and must not settle this case. You need to fight it. If you do settle it, it would mean that generations of residents and competing commercial interests are the ones who are going to have to pay the price. They'll be sold out by you. The plaintiff in this case, Calverton Manor, has a weak case. Otherwise, they would have vigorously pursued their advantage in court and won by now. This case is years old. It's 7 or 8 years old. If they had such a strong case, it would be history by now. So why are we trying to settle it now? As far as we know, all any developer has ever done is try to settle old suits and not litigate. This is a typical strategy. I'm sure you're aware of it, every one of you. File a suit, make some threatening claims, and keep talking to and pressuring and donating to the officials until they agree that to what you want in the first place. There's no real intent to pursue what is almost inevitably a weak court case. It's simply a backdoor tactic that many developers use, and I beg you not to let them succeed in this case because of the the precedent it's going to set for other cases and the extension of Route 58 west from where it is now to the other end of town. The other point that's already been raised is the proposed settlement doesn't stand alone. There's a 180 acre parcel to the west, same lawyer, same law firm, same contention. What do you think they're going to do if we settle this one? The fact that the courts are very reluctant to overturn the actions, the land use decisions made by local municipalities also has to be kept in mind. Almost no court will overrule a legitimate decision made by a town board concerning zoning. You know that. Stand up and fight for our future here in the town. The affidavit on the land use issues submitted by the applicants can easily be thrown out, stipulating that they'll close their eyes when they talk about this, even though they're working on town board matters. That's not realistic. That's not the real world. I think you have to move to have that stricken from the record in the case that has been brought by the applicants. And that will further weaken an already weak case. The benefits of development in accordance with the current zoning far outweigh the benefits of the Calverton Manor application, which will lead to further urban sprawl and undermine Riverhead's most valuable assets, those being open space, agriculture, lower property taxes, and the rural character of our town. If you want the town to be just like everywhere else, go ahead, do things like this and approve them. And tourists will start going elsewhere. They'll go to New Jersey and Connecticut or the South Fork. This is an asset to our town, and you're playing with it. Keep in mind, too, that the lowest impact on local government cost, if you're worried about the tax base, the lowest impact on local government cost is open space and agriculture. Other land uses within the APZ, which is currently zoned at this property we're talking about, and rural corridor, will increase the demand on services, raise our property taxes, and chip away at our real economic base, which is the rural character, agricultural character of our town. Don't let it happen. You don't have to cave into this threat by a developer who's been sitting around for 7 or 8 years on this weak case. I also, unfortunately, I feel compelled to also note that it's a matter of public record that our supervisor has accepted campaign contributions from the applicant, the law firm representing the applicant, and the environmental consultant representing the applicant.
Do you have any idea how people get elected, or you're clueless on that point? Do you have any idea how campaigns are funded?
I'm making a point here that...
Do you have any idea how campaigns are funded, from the presidents right on down to town board members? Any idea?
If you would allow me to say what I had to say, I'd be happy to sit down afterwards.
I'm asking you a question. Do you have any idea how campaigns...
Yes, I do.
Okay, then if you did, you wouldn't make that point. People donate to campaigns.
How do you know what point I'm going to make? I haven't even made my point. How do you have any idea what it is?
Please wrap it up.
I will if you let me.
It's been 5 minutes. Please
The donations to you from those people total over $5,000. That's a significant portion of your total campaign contributions. It is essential for the members of the town board to avoid conflicts of interest in administering zoning regulations, as well as the appearance of a conflict, which undermines the credibility of the town's actions. In light of the appearance that these generous contributions may influence the outcome of this action, and in light of the limitations set forth in the town's code of ethics, I think it's imperative that you, sir, along with any other board member that accepted substantial contributions from the applicant or the representatives while litigation is pending, should recuse yourself from these matters and remove yourselves from all future discussions on the matter.
You would be wrong on the law, Phil.
I'm talking about, sir, the appearance of conflict.
Sir,
I'm not talking about law. I'm not a lawyer.
President Barack Obama down, campaigns are financed by individuals, by corporations. It's the way the country is. I didn't make it that way, sir. That's the way the country is. I can't. Everything is governed. There's full disclosure, the limits, the amounts. What you're doing is you're trying to say that because I receive campaign contributions that I'm going to do something unethical, and I think, Phil, that's pretty brazen of you to say that.
Can I just say
You
one
may
thing
you
before
may have heard something
Phil,
other
can
than what I
say-
said, but I did
Wait,
not say
right.
what you just paraphrased.
Why would I have to
I said
recuse
that the
myself?
appearance of conflict of interest is what's important here.
No, I think what you're doing is accusing me because I took contributions from corporations that I could never make, or other board members could never pass judgment on those applications. That, from every supervisor probably since they started financing campaigns on down has had that same appearance of conflict. So if you were to take your standard, then no supervisor, either one, you couldn't run and win because you don't have the funds to do it, or the supervisor would be rendered inept because he or she could never pass judgment on anything. It doesn't make sense, sir.
Phil, can I say something?
I think I really struck a nerve.
I'm going to get off that subject. I think you're heading in the wrong direction. These negotiations were started 7 years ago in the Cardinelli administration. That's when these negotiations were started, in the Cardinelli administration 7 years ago. We are an open government here. That's why you know about it now. This just didn't start. This started 7 years ago. When I was on the town board, we were negotiating this 7 years ago. So, I mean, this is something that it just doesn't came up. It's been an ongoing. Now, we have a lot of.
You just heard about it.
No. I just heard about him with the master plan. With the master plan. I just heard about this, what he wants to do with the master plan, not this here. No. You're taking it out of context, Rex. Now, I know you do these things, but you please don't take my remarks out of context. I said the first time I heard about the master plan was tonight when he said he was going to go to the planning board. That's what I said. Now, this started back. We are an open government here. That's why everybody knows about this now. But we did not start this. The supervisor did not start this. The Cardinelli administration started this. If you want to know how long this has been in negotiations, it's been for a long time. And you said it's an old suit, 8 years old. It's been in negotiations ever since then. Now, we have a lot of people that are suing this town. We do not know about every suit unless the attorneys come to us and bring up what they are doing and what they have to report back to court. So this is why you guys know about this now, because we said this is what's happening, okay? But don't blame, if you want, you can blame me, because I was here at the Cardinelli administration, but you can't blame the rest of these board members for this, because it's been, and we can't listen to 100 lawsuits every single week. So when they have something they have to do, they come in and talk to us. And that's how you guys found out about this now, is because I said we're an open government now.
Thank you, John. That's my point. We're here to raise your awareness, all five of you, about this case.
But don't blame this board here.
I'm sorry, I didn't blame anyone for anything.
Well, you're blaming the supervisor.
No,
for
I wasn't.
having negotiations.
No, I wasn't. Don't
they're
put words in my
ongoing
mouth. I didn't blame anybody.
Phil, can you wrap it up, please? It's been 5 minutes. Can you wrap it up, please?
Not my 5 minutes.
Phil, can you wrap it
I
up,
think
please?
that what I'm trying to say here is I would hope that communications between the five of you improve after today's display, and that one of the things you do discuss is this particular stipulation. It has many, many far-reaching implications for the town. It is a weak case. There's no reason why it should have been hanging around for 7 years other than the fact that it is weak. Otherwise, it would have been resolved. So I'm asking you, please resolve it in favor of upholding the zoning of this town.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Next. That's it. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion we adjourn.
All
Town
in
board
favor?
meeting.
Aye. Thank you.